Chapter 456. As soon as Old Man Su said that, the police officer behind Jing Yunjiao wanted to speak up for her, but Jing Yunjiao quickly pushed him back. Thank you, police uncles. You don't have to explain for me. I'll do it myself. With Old Man Su's temper, no matter what others said, it would only get worse. He might even say that she was looking for external help. What she did was a good thing. As long as she explained it clearly, there would be no problem, so there was no need for others to do more. The police officers were baffled, but Jing Yunjiao was very strange, and the old man looked even stranger, so they could only nod and escort the two human traffickers back to the police station. Jing Yunjiao closed the door and walked over with the things. Old Man Su, something happened on the way here, so I was delayed. How about I compensate you with a bottle of newly brewed medicine later? Jing Yunjiao's eyes shone. The old man snorted, rubbed his nose, and glanced at her arm. You're so useless. You're injured? Jing Yunjiao shook her head. It's just a small injury. It doesn't hurt. After saying that, she couldn't help but laugh. She had to speak the opposite way to the old man. If she said that it didn't hurt, the old man's attitude would be good. If she gritted her teeth and acted coquettishly as soon as she entered the door, the old man would probably throw her out and scold her for being a good-for-nothing who couldn't even bear this little pain. Sure enough, seeing that she didn't even frown, the old man was obviously unhappy. I think you're not only stupid, but also a little silly. Clean the wound yourself. I'll get some medicine and wrap it up for you. If the smell of your blood affects the herbs here, don't come back in the future. Jing Yunjiao nodded and smiled. Okay. The old man was exaggerating. The yard was so big, and she didn't bleed a river. How could it affect the herbs? He was obviously worried about her, but he didn't say it directly. She hurriedly cleaned and disinfected the wound. The old man also came out of the house with the medicine. Just as the two of them sat down and were about to apply the medicine, the door opened and Li Xiaoyun stepped in. However, the moment he looked up and saw Jing Yunjiao and Old Man Su, the slight smile on his face fell instantly. His eyes were frighteningly cold. Frowning, he strode over and stared at the wound. Gritting his teeth, he asked, "Did you fight with someone else when I wasn't around? Look at this wound. There are glass shards on it." No, other than the new injury on her arm this time, there were also some cigarette scars. They looked a little old and shocking. The muscles on his face twitched. How did this happen? When Li Xiaoyun said this, his expression was cold. Jing Yunjiao raised his head and looked over. He smiled. I just met a human trafficker. I can't just stand by and do nothing, right? So I chased them all the way and smashed their car windows. Fortunately, I managed to save them. When I left, the child even gave me the lollipop in his hand. To be honest, she was a little excited at that moment. Moreover, that family was so flustered when they lost their child. Such good parents shouldn't be separated from their child. Li Xiaoyun's face was dark. He pointed at her head and gently poked it. Jing Yunjiao, is your brain kicked by a donkey? Did he torture himself to this extent for a lollipop? Isn't it just a lousy lollipop? How much do you want? I can buy it for you. Is one box not enough for a car? If it really can't fill up a house, I can build a candy city for you. With me here, what can you not have? Are you stupid? He had lived for more than 20 years and had been injured countless times. However, he had never felt anything before. However, now that he saw Jing Yunjiao's wound that was still bleeding, he inexplicably felt dizzy. It was more painful than any other injury he had felt before. His whole body felt unwell. Chapter 457. Li Xiaoyun frowned and stared at the wound. Jing Yunjiao couldn't believe what he said. Li Xiaoyun, I saved someone. The candy isn't the point. Jing Yunjiao looked gentle and said, it's just a small wound. The old man has medicine here. It won't take long to recover. It was the first time she saw Li Xiaoyun say such words. He seemed to be a little resentful, but she was the one who was injured. She didn't cause trouble for him. When Jing Yunjiao said that, Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. He could see that she was in a good mood. In the past, no matter how good Jing Yunjiao's mood was, she would still be a little serious in front of him. Her polite attitude would never be this gentle. In front of outsiders, she would always maintain that attitude of keeping people 1,000 miles away. Even if he was very familiar with her now, She was still unbelievably mature and steady. But now, it was different. Her entire person was very relaxed. Even though Elder Sue's movements were practiced, it was definitely not without pain. She, on the other hand, acted as if she didn't have any reaction. The corner of her mouth was even slightly raised, as if the injury wasn't on her body. Just for a little boy? Li Xiaoyun's face twitched. He glanced at her bare neck and asked, "Where's the scarf?" Jing Yunjiao's face froze. She pointed to the garbage basket in the yard and said, "Sorry, it's dirty." She looked a little scared. "This scarf of yours is pretty useful. Luckily I have it, or else I would have to go into battle with my bare hands. How about I take it back and wash it before returning it to you?" Jing Yunjiao lowered her head and spoke softly. Li Xiaoyun's eyelids twitched. He narrowed his eyes and snorted. "Didn't you throw it away?" Fortunately, he had it? He didn't think so. Not only was the scarf torn, but there were also some broken glass on it. Other than that, there was even some blood on it. The trash bin only contained a discarded medicinal ingredient, but there was a lot of dust. Even if he cleaned it 100 times, he wouldn't use it. Jing Yunjiao braced herself and said, "I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. Just return me one later." Li Xiaoyun casually replied, "It's best if you knit it yourself. At the very least, you have to let me feel your sincerity, right?" Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. "I don't know how to. Is there anything Zhao doesn't know? But it doesn't matter, I believe you." As he spoke, he smiled at her. He didn't forget to glance at her wound. Seeing that the old man was a little rough, he said, "There's no need to trouble Elder Su with such trivial matters." As he spoke, he squeezed through the crowd. His slender figure squatted in front of him and directly pulled Jing Yunjiao's arm over. When his warm hand touched Jing Yunjiao's cold arm, he did not stop and quickly wrapped the bandage. His brows were furrowed and his actions were serious. He looked quite charming. However, his method of bandaging was indeed very good. The strength he used was even better than Elder Su's. Jing Yunjiao was surprised. "You know how to bandage?" She didn't seem to have asked Li Xiaoyun what he studied. Although the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant in the county was run by him, it should be a family business. As for what he knew and what he did in the capital, she had no idea. On the other hand, Li Xiaoyun always paid more attention to his own matters. Li Xiaoyun said casually, "After fighting so many times, I naturally have the ability to bandage." Jing Yunjiao smiled. "Young Master Li, don't tell me you're just a spoiled brat who knows how to eat and drink." Chapter 458. Jing Yunjiao was just joking, because Li Xiaoyun was definitely not a simple playboy, no matter how she looked at him. There were thick calluses on his hands, probably caused by practicing martial arts or holding weapons. There was even a scar between his thumb and index finger. She was a doctor, so she could also see that it was a knife wound. In addition, he always looked at people with a bit of scrutiny and caution. He seemed to be a polite gentleman, but he was obviously sizing up people's hearts. The confidence he exuded usually carried a strong sense of arrogance. Although the number of times he fought was not many and short, she could feel the murderous aura every time he fought. Every move he used was aimed at taking the opponent's life. Even if he restrained himself a lot when he was with her and deliberately reduced the range, she was still a martial artist after all, so of course she could feel it. Also, Li Xiaoyun's injury in the car accident in the county was also very suspicious. Maybe he was chased by an enemy. Based on this, she guessed that Li Xiaoyun might be a veteran of the business and often did some unusual business. Or maybe he was a soldier who often did missions. In short, he was definitely not an ordinary rich young master. Of course, given that he always came back to worship at various times, the possibility of him being a soldier was very low, because she had never seen such a free soldier. Jing Yunjiao's eyes showed a hint of understanding. Li Xiaoyun treated the wound and helped her to pull down her sleeve. When he passed by the cigarette scar on her arm, he listened for a second or two. "Aren't you a doctor? Can't you get rid of this scar?" Jing Yunjiao was stunned. "It doesn't hurt or itch." Old Man Su next to him snorted. "Stupid and ugly." "Yes, Old Man Su is right." Li Xiaoyun nodded in agreement. Jing Yunjiao was speechless and hurriedly pulled down her sleeve. "I have a prescription that can remove scars, but this scar is too old and too clear. It's basically impossible to completely remove it, unless you cut off all the flesh around it and let it grow again and use medicine. The recovery ability of new flesh was much stronger than that of old flesh, and no matter how powerful the ointment was, it was impossible to revive dead flesh. She was a doctor, not a psychic. As soon as Jing Yunjiao said this, the old man and the young man in front of him both shut their mouths. The old man groaned as he stood up and changed the topic. Your hand is injured, so the dishes you make might not taste good. Dinner. Halfway through his words, he paused for a moment before turning to look at Li Xiaoyun with a bizarre expression. Lad from the Li clan, why don't you do it? Jing Yunjiao's eyes widened a little. My injury. There's no problem. He had used the best medicine to stop the bleeding. Even if he swung his arm around, it would not bleed at all. Elder Su should know this, right? However, since he knew about it but still didn't allow her to do it, she was afraid that he was deliberately bullying Li Xiaoyun. Stupid girl, the old man said and turned around. His beard curled up as he walked towards the living room step by step. As he walked, he scolded again. What are you standing there for? Come and play chess with me. Jing Yunjiao was helpless. She looked at Li Xiaoyun with a complicated expression. Can you do it? The dishes in the restaurant run by Li Xiaoyun were indeed good, but he was not Du Lin. He shouldn't have such superb cooking skills, right? Li Xiaoyun saw that Jing Yunjiao's eyes were shining brightly. She seemed to be worried, but at the same time, she seemed to be rejoicing in other people's misfortune. The corner of his lips curled up as he placed his hands on her ears and turned her head. Leave it to me. Chapter 459. Jing Yunjiao's brain buzzed. Just as she was about to speak, Li Xiaoyun retracted his hand in time. The next second, he didn't stay in front of Jing Yunjiao any longer. He turned around and went straight to the kitchen. Jing Yunjiao originally wanted him to stay further away from her. She didn't like the feeling of being touched by others, who knew that Li Xiaoyun didn't seem to take this matter to heart. He touched her quickly and let her go quickly. If she were to fuss over every ounce and then open her mouth to remind him, it wouldn't be good. She glanced at him, sighed, and hurriedly followed Old Master Su's footsteps. However, Jing Yunjiao didn't see the evil smile on Li Xiaoyun's face after he turned around. Jing Yunjiao learned her Go skills from Tang Zihua's grandfather, but he only taught her the basics. Later, when Elder Su saw her pondering over the Go manual by herself, he pretended to inadvertently give her some pointers. With the old man as her practice partner, her Go skills improved by leaps and bounds. However, this time, Jing Yunjiao was a little absent-minded. She really didn't believe Li Xiaoyun. How could a man like him know how to cook? Moreover, the vegetables she bought were mostly vegetarian. Stupid girl, if you're absent-minded again, you'll lose, Old Master Su said as his beard moved. The tea smoke in the room spiraled in spirals, and it smelled very comfortable. These furnishings were all rearranged after Jing Yunjiao came. Old Master Su liked these simple and charming things. Therefore, whenever she found something good in the space, she would send it to Old Master Su without hesitation. Needless to say, tea and wine. There were also many blooming orchids. Old Master Su personally watered and served them every day. He liked them very much. Jing Yunjiao held a black piece in her hand, but she was already at a disadvantage on the chessboard. The Li family is not an ordinary rich family, Old Master Su said suddenly. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Li Xiaoyun has a good future, but life and death are up to fate. Success and failure are up to God. If you walk by the river often, how can you not wet your shoes? Old Master Su put down a piece and smiled. Elder Su, what do you mean by this? Jing Yunjiao was a little confused. She didn't really want to know about the Li family's matters. After all, it had nothing to do with them. He said that Li Xiaoyun had a good future, which should be a compliment. But why did he add those two sentences at the end? Calling you stupid is not wrong at all. Elder Su sighed and leaned back. You're smart, tenacious, and hardworking. But there's one thing you don't have. You don't have enough vision. But it was no wonder. She was only 16 or 17 years old. What kind of vision could she have? Moreover, she had always grown up in a place like Huaning County. How was it possible for her to see things clearly in such a short period of time? She could be considered to have matured a lot now. When she first came to his courtyard, she was just a silly girl. Her personality was strong, but her temper was inflexible. The old man's words were so mysterious that even Jing Yunjiao couldn't understand him. However, he didn't say much. It was as if he wanted her to figure it out on her own. The old man seemed to be too lazy to play chess with her. He leaned on the sofa and closed his eyes to rest. Jing Yunjiao thought for a while. After a while, she roughly understood what he meant. He was saying that although Li Xiaoyun had a good future and was a talent, he often experienced danger. Who knew when he would die? She had thought about this before, hadn't she? If Li Xiaoyun was an ordinary person, he naturally wouldn't have such excellent martial arts. In her opinion, it was better to rely on oneself than rely on fate. With Li Xiaoyun's temperament and means, how could he die so easily? Jing Yunjiao smiled and tidied up the chessboard without saying anything. After a while, Li Xiaoyun brought a few dishes. Jing Yunjiao took a look and instantly widened her eyes. Chapter 460. There were quite a few dishes. Including the egg soup, there were a total of 8 dishes, but the appearance. Not only was it pitch black, there wasn't even the slightest bit of oil. Fine salt particles could even be seen on top of it. Some looked like they were roasted, while others looked like they were directly mixed after being boiled. It wasn't elegant at all. Old Man Su glanced over, and his old face trembled. Elder Su's disciple, Uncle Xing Yuan, coughed without leaving a trace. He was a little embarrassed. Jing Yunjiao remained silent, waiting for Elder Su to speak. Elder Su said, "Not bad. Let's eat." Jing Yunjiao secretly clicked her tongue. She had never seen Elder Su praise Uncle Xing Yuan's dishes before. Sure enough, Li Xiaoyun was a guest, so he was a little more tolerant of him. However, she didn't know if eating this would cause any discomfort. It seemed like she had to prepare some anti-diarrhea medicine. As soon as Elder Su spoke, the few of them immediately walked towards the dining table. After Uncle Xing Yuan went outside to set off a string of firecrackers, the crackling sounds shook the entire courtyard and caused a commotion. Jing Yunjiao listened to the sounds with a smile in her eyes, her face filled with satisfaction. This was the first new year after her rebirth. She had experienced many things in this year, but compared to her previous life, it was an earth-shattering change. It was an excellent start. Once the sound of the firecrackers stopped, the old man took the lead and started eating. Jing Yunjiao also gave Li Xiaoyun enough face and didn't show any signs of dislike. She stuffed a mouthful into her mouth, but the moment it entered her mouth, she looked at Li Xiaoyun in astonishment, her expression carrying a hint of praise. Although the appearance wasn't good, there was nothing to say about the taste. It was fresh and refreshing. Moreover, the taste of these vegetarian dishes was displayed very well. It wasn't the dark cuisine she had imagined. Li Xiaoyun had clearly imagined everyone's reaction. He leisurely ate his meal like a proud aristocrat. His tail seemed to be raised to the sky. Jing Yunjiao curled her lips and disdained in her heart. However, she saw Li Xiaoyun's eyebrows twitch. His deep, cold eyes looked over and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Don't forget my scarf. I'll give you 3 days." Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. Okay. If she could knit, he had to be brave enough to wear it. At present, although they were not a family, they were happy and harmonious. After eating, the 4 of them gathered together to play cards to pass the time. After all, the old man was old. He could play chess, but he could not keep up with the game of cards. After his IQ was completely destroyed by Li Xiaoyun, Su Xingyuan began to be responsible for the old man. Jing Yunjiao's eyesight was good, but she would always be caught red-handed by her. Once or twice, she could still tolerate it, but after a few times, she started to throw away the stall and quit, making the old man so angry that his beard was about to fly up. Li Xiaoyun was like a winner in life. After winning a bag of money, he patted his butt and left. Jing Yunjiao was scolded by the old man for being stupid for nothing. However, even though the old man got angry several times today, most of the time, the corners of his mouth twitched as he tried to hold back his laughter. Even when he scolded people, his expression was pleasant. Some families were happy while others were sad. Some people were destined to have an uncomfortable new year. Even though Jing Yunjiao didn't tell Wu Deli the reason why he was fired, Wu Cici's male classmate spilled the beans when he returned home. When Wu Cici's parents heard it, they were so angry that they ruthlessly beat him up. Do you know where your classmate lives? We'll take you back to apologize in person. Wu Cici gritted her teeth and shook her head. Not to mention that she did not know where Jing Yunjiao lived. Even if she did, she would not do it. She had already embarrassed herself once. If she came looking for her again, how could she face others in the future? Chapter 461. The Wu family could not do anything to Wu Cici. They had beaten and scolded her, but the fact that she was unemployed did not change. They weren't young anymore, and luck played a part in their ability to work at Jade Spirit Wines. After all, the company had just been established, and many aspects weren't very strict. It was almost impossible to find another company like Jade Spirit Wines now. Even if they found a job, the position and salary could not be compared to Yuling Wines. Wu Cici was taught a lesson by her family. Other than anger, she was more sad. The negative emotions grew. In a fit of anger, she ran back to Ningxiang County and made a fuss about dropping out of school. Her parents and sister did not dote on her. Only her grandmother was good to her. She did not want to stay with those hypocritical family members anymore. Jing Yunjiao did not know that so many things had happened because of a small ball. However, even if he knew, his attitude would not change. Wu Cici was not loved by her parents because of the environment. It was not caused by her. If it were her, she would only work harder to prove herself and not attract attention by hurting herself. Moreover, even without her, Wu Cici's relationship with her family was the same. However, Wu Cici's experience was not as good as Hong Wen's. After all, she was just a student with a more shameless personality. No matter how much trouble she caused at home, at least she had a complete family. However, Hong Wen was different. After the new year, her situation was even worse than before. The family lived in an ordinary rental house that they rented temporarily. Hong Wen thought that the Hong family only had a temporary problem and that they would be able to make a comeback soon. However, a few days after the new year, Hong Tian climbed up the building where the Hong family's company used to be located and directly jumped down from the top. Hong Tian's life had been smooth sailing. Even if he didn't eat delicacies, he still ate delicacies. However, after he went bankrupt, he was still in debt. Even food and accommodation became a problem. Other people's families were full of joy and had a constant supply of good food, but their family was extremely poor. Food was not a problem, but the problem was that he could not stand such a big difference. Not long ago, he was still the CEO Hong with unlimited glory. Now, he was suddenly worse than an ordinary person. When he walked on the streets, it was as if everyone looked at him with mocking eyes. Even though he knew that many people did not know him, he could not change his mentality. He wanted to hide in a place where no one could see him. Originally, he could still hold on. However, Hong Wen was seriously ill. She kept yelling that her back hurt and wanted to find the best doctor. Hong Tian's son even accompanied his friends on a cruise and lost 1,000,000 yuan. Not to mention 1,000,000. His family could not even take out 100,000 yuan. Standing on the rooftop as the cool breeze blew past, Hong Tian suddenly felt that the biggest failure of his life was not the bankruptcy of his company, but his son and daughter, the son and daughter that he was once proud of. He had always felt that his son could be taught in the future if he didn't know any better, but this future had been delayed for more than 20 years. And his daughter? The daughter that he doted on so much that he didn't hesitate to hire a hitman just because of his daughter's words. But in the end, she only tortured him every night. At that moment, he felt that perhaps death would be the best release for him. Once Hong Tian died, the Hong family lost all hope. Hong Tian's wife was a second wife. She was young and beautiful. She had already run away when the Hong family fell. Hong Wen's brother owed a huge debt. That night, he was dragged out of the house and never came back. Chapter 462. It was the new year, but someone had died in the house. In the eyes of others, it was bad luck. Although the landlord couldn't bear it, he still returned the rent and chased Hong Wen out. Homeless. On the street, Hong Wen sat in a cheap wheelchair, her face burning with pain. She was the eldest daughter of the Hong family. She knew many things, such as horse riding, golf, and various kinds of dancing. She had a social circle that everyone in Ning City envied. She had money, taste, and a bright future. But why was everything gone now? Her father was gone, her brother was gone, her bags, shoes, and even her friends were gone. In the past, many people owed her money. When she called to collect the debt, the other party asked if she had gone crazy from poverty. Just as she was in despair, the phone rang. Hongwen wiped the tears on her face and picked up the call. "Who is it?" Jing Yuanzhao, who heard the voice, was silent for a moment. The next second, she said, "Miss Hong, do you still think that you were born noble? Do you still think that other people's lives are just playthings for you to trample on?" She, just because of a small conflict, took the lives of 3 people and ruined the futures of several people. The 2 drivers died because of her, Cui Jun died because of her, Sun Yin made a mistake and ended up crazy because of her, Ji Shanshan was injured because of her, and even Xiao Haiqing almost had to bear the crime of murder. She remembered this series of events. Jing Yuanzhao. Hongwen instantly became ferocious. "It's you, isn't it? You bitch. If I'm a bitch, what are you? A noble bitch? Miss Hong, I heard that you're currently outside, so I advise you to be careful. I'm afraid that Cui Jun's family members, who were innocently killed by you, will come looking for you for revenge." Jing Yuanzhao finished speaking and hung up. She wouldn't keep Hongwen, but she wouldn't dirty her hands. According to Ji Shanshan, after Cui Jun's death, Cui Zhanxian went crazy to seek revenge on the Ji family. She directly found someone to tell Cui Zhanxian that Hongwen was the real murderer of his son. The result was obvious. Jing Yuanzhao hung up the phone. Hongwen was so angry that her face turned green. She hated Jing Yuanzhao. She didn't know why, but from the first time she saw Jing Yuanzhao, she felt that this girl would be someone she would hate for the rest of her life. Whenever she, Hongwen, appeared at an event, everyone's reaction was normal. Even if they didn't smile at her to curry favor, they would still have an amiable expression on their faces. Those people were the same as her. She could clearly differentiate them, but Jing Yuanzhao wasn't. Her eyes were like a mirror. The moment their gazes met, it actually made her feel a little inferior, making her feel an inexplicable threat. Therefore, she hated her incompatibility, hated the tenacity and indifference that radiated from her eyes. Moreover, Jing Yuanzhao made her lose face, making her feel for the first time in her life that if Jing Yuanzhao still existed, then she would be unhappy for the rest of her life. She didn't believe that Jing Yuanzhao could keep winning. Sooner or later, she would. Hongwen gritted her teeth and pushed the wheelchair forward. Just as she was thinking, a car rushed directly from the opposite side. In an instant, her whole body slammed into the car window. Through the car window, she saw a face full of hatred. She didn't recognize it, but maybe it was the Cui family member that Jing Yuanzhao mentioned. Hongwen's consciousness was dissipating. She felt numb from the pain all over her body. She seemed to be able to hear her weak heartbeat slowly stop. Fear, panic, and fear. She gritted her teeth. Her bloody fingers seemed to move as if she was writing something on the ground, but it didn't last long before she completely stopped breathing. Chapter 463. Hongwen's death was like a small stone thrown into the ocean. It did not attract anyone's attention at all. Even those who knew about the Hong family only sighed a few times and forgot about it in the blink of an eye. Jing Yuanzhao had people keep an eye on Hongwen, so when Hongwen got into a car accident, Jing Yuanzhao was the first to know. She felt relieved. A debt of blood could only be repaid with blood. Hongwen wanted her life, so now that she had lost hers, she deserved it. Jing Yuanzhao put down her phone. She was holding a crooked scarf in her hand. The box on the table was beautiful, but it did not match the scarf at all. Before her rebirth, she was extremely outstanding in her studies and housework, but she had never knitted a scarf. Although she had the spirit jade after her rebirth, how could there be such a thing in the ancestors' memory? There was not even ancient embroidery, let alone modern knitting. In the past, she had seen her classmates fiddling with such things, but she had no interest in them. This time, she bought a bunch of yarn balls and took them apart a few times before she finally completed a seemingly normal work. The scarf was black and white and looked a little tacky. She felt uncomfortable when she thought of such a thing hanging around Li Xiaoyun's neck. Moreover, the scarf had many missing stitches. It looked like a low-quality handmade product. If she took it out to sell, She was afraid that no one would take a second look at it no matter how low the price was. However, after this attempt, she finally discovered the weakness of her incompetence. After stuffing the scarf into the box, Jing Yunjiao sighed. She thought about it and decided not to meet Li Xiaoyun. Instead, she prepared to give the gift box to Du Lin and let him pass it to him. She could not bring out such an ugly thing. When Jing Yunjiao arrived at Yutianxian, she was shocked by the booming business here. Yutianxian was not small, but the hundreds of tables upstairs and downstairs were all full. Even so, she could still smell the aroma of the dishes. The taste was much better than other places. Jing Yunjiao rarely came here. Usually, there would be someone to deliver the goods, so she did not have to make a special trip. Therefore, in her impression, Yutianxian was still a little cold. How is it? It's not a waste for you to sell those ingredients to me, right? Du Lin hurriedly went downstairs to welcome her. When he saw her, he immediately said proudly, "Why is the business so good? It seemed that they would be busy all the time. How could the employees in the shop stand it? Although the dishes in my restaurant are a little expensive, they taste good. Most families would want to eat something good during the new year. Why would they put up with it?" Du Lin said with a smile. It was an exaggeration to say that his restaurant was so fragrant that there were even many people from Serene City and neighboring cities coming to buy his signature dishes. His reputation was slowly building up. After this busy period was over, he was ready to invest in a branch. Jing Yunjiao nodded. No wonder we've consumed so many ingredients recently. Recently, she had been earning several times more from Yutianxian than before. Her monthly income was more than 200,000. By the way, Brother Du, when you see young Master Li later, please pass this to him for me. Jing Yunjiao stretched out his hand stiffly. Du Lin was stunned. He felt that Jing Yunjiao's expression was a little unnatural, as if she was very uncomfortable. He took the bag and looked at it. There was a box in the bag. It should be a tie or a scarf. Looking at the packaging, it should be a very tasteful design. Du Lin smiled. Just as he was about to speak, he pointed at the door and said, "I think you should give it to him yourself. Hey, he's right behind you." Chapter 464. Jing Yunjiao's body stiffened, the corner of her mouth forming an awkward smile. She turned her head and sure enough, she saw Li Xiaoyun sitting in his low-key, luxurious business car. He slowly rolled down the window and stared at her with a smile that was not a smile. She braced herself and walked over. Shouldn't the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant be busy at this time? Young Master Li still has time to stroll around? You don't know? I'm the big boss of Yutianxian. It's only right for me to check on the business, right? Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and hooked a finger. This is for me. A scarf? Jing Yunjiao was shocked by the word big boss. But after thinking about it, although Du Lin had the skills of an imperial chef passed down from his ancestors, he was indeed lacking in funds. Li Xiaoyun and him were so close, so it was normal for them to work together. Du Lin followed behind and saw Li Xiaoyun get out of the car with a bag. He slowly opened the bag and threw away the box. The next second, Du Lin's mouth twitched. It was his first time seeing such an ugly scarf. Black and white should form a strong color contrast, but the one in front of him was a little strange. It was a thick line, and it didn't look neat at all. To think that he even thought that Jing Yunjiao had taken out a high-end product with style. Sure enough, he was thinking too much. Li Xiaoyun was also stunned. You knitted it seriously? Jing Yunjiao nodded. It was rare for her face to turn red. Du Lin held back his laughter. Li Xiaoyun licked his lips. Then you put it on for me. Young Master Li, are you okay? This scarf is so ugly. Oh, you two aren't betting, are you? Du Lin said at an inappropriate time. In an instant, the two of them rolled their eyes at him, and he shut his mouth. It's more suitable for you to wear it. I've never worn a scarf before, so I only know how to tie a bow or a dead knot, Jing Yunjiao said. Li Xiaoyun put on a fake smile. The scarf you threw away before was put on by me, right? At that time, this young master was shivering from the cold, but seeing that your neck was exposed, Zhao, it was cold, so I specially gave it to you. Who would have thought that in the end? Okay, I got it. Lower your head. Jing Yunjiao rolled his eyes. He had never seen such a calculative man. Back then, she had only used the scarf as a temporary weapon. How could he remember it for so long? Li Xiaoyun smiled and lowered his head secretly. He was very cooperative. Don't tie it to a dead knot or a butterfly knot. Just put in more effort, noisy. Jing Yunjiao had never worn a scarf in her 2 lifetimes. To her, no matter how cheap a scarf was, it was not as practical as a full meal. When it was cold, she could jump to warm herself up. However, the stomach was different. If there was nothing to eat, it would be very uncomfortable for the whole day. Therefore, she was very resistant to the cold, even more so after practicing martial arts. She could survive the coldest winter with an ordinary undershirt and a simple down jacket, unlike others who would shrink their heads and shiver. Because of this, people had even said that she was a cold-blooded animal. Li Xiaoyun lowered his head and leaned on her shoulder. His voice drifted by her ear, and the heat made her ears turn red. He was on the tall side. Even Jing Yunjiao, a tall girl, had to tiptoe to tidy him up until he was satisfied. It took her about 2 minutes or so. By the time Li Xiaoyun stood up straight and shrunk his head back, Jing Yunjiao's ears were both bright red, making her look especially cute. However, her face was cold and cheerless, giving off a sense of cuteness that made Du Lin dumbfounded. Li Xiaoyun smiled with satisfaction. He reached out and took out a pure white furry scarf from the car and wrapped it around Jing Yunjiao's neck again. Seeing that you are sincere enough, I'll forget about the previous one. But this is my return gift. Before the temperature rises, you can't leave it. Oh right, I forgot to tell you that the previous one was custom-made from D country. There is only one in the whole world, so it's useless even if you want to use other methods to repay me. And good Zhao, don't you still owe me a favor? Chapter 465. Feeling the sudden warmth, Jing Yunjiao subconsciously shrank her neck. Although Li Xiaoyun's words were a bit annoying, the scarf was furry and very comfortable. Du Lin was speechless. He had known Li Xiaoyun for so many years. Why hadn't he given him a gift in return? Also, was he trying to save face to suffer? He obviously wanted to please Jing Yunjiao, but he had to pretend to be a threat. It was simply childish. Jing Yunjiao wasn't a fool. Naturally, she knew that Li Xiaoyun had good intentions. You're not really going to wear this scarf outside, are you? Jing Yunjiao was still a bit embarrassed and asked. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. Can't I? Jing Yunjiao silently lowered her head. If she had known that Li Xiaoyun would really wear it, she would have put in more effort to knit another one that was presentable. But now, looking at Li Xiaoyun, she felt that he was wearing a long kelp around his neck. It was neither fish nor fowl. However, Li Xiaoyun's body was very good, and his appearance was even more outstanding. Even if he wore the kelp, he would still look like a big shot. Forget it. Since he was willing, there was nothing for her to worry about. Li Xiaoyun, when are you going to return to the capital? Jing Yunjiao changed the topic and asked. Li Xiaoyun lowered his eyebrows and looked at her. His eyes drifted. Guess. After that, he pulled her into the car. Let's go. I'll take you for a ride. Jing Yunjiao was pushed into the back seat by him. Then, Li Xiaoyun got in and sat directly beside him. Du Lin saw this and knew that he was going to be the driver today. He looked at Li Xiaoyun speechlessly and was full of resentment. However, when he thought of Jing Yunjiao's age, Du Lin comforted himself. If young Master Li had really taken a liking to Jing Yunjiao, then it would be impossible for him to succeed in a short period of time. Even if Jing Yunjiao fell in love with him, in some aspects, young Master Li would still have to endure for at least 2 to 3 years, right? If he ate her up as soon as he got what he wanted, that would be too much of a beast. Du Lin imagined the scene of Li Xiaoyun, a young man full of anger, and laughed evilly. However, after laughing, he felt a cold gaze behind him and immediately shivered. Young Master Li, where are you going? To Serene City, Li Xiaoyun said directly. Why didn't you say so earlier? If I go now, I'm afraid I won't be able to come back tonight. Is Yunjiao all right? Du Lin asked. Young Master Li was not like this in the past. Every time he returned to Huaning County, he rarely left the Tianxiang brothel. Every time he visited the tombs, he would return to the capital not long after. But ever since he met Jing Yunjiao, things had changed. Why are we going to Serene City? Jing Yunjiao was also somewhat puzzled. I have a friend who opened a private club in Serene City. I'll bring you there to take a look. Li Xiaoyun's voice was slightly cold, which made Jing Yunjiao feel even more strange. Friends? Why did she feel that Li Xiaoyun's expression was somewhat dangerous when he mentioned this word? Jing Yunjiao was confused, but she did not open her mouth to ask. She often went to Serene City, so she did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. Moreover, the winter vacation was not long. Once the festive atmosphere was over, she would have to speed up her studies. Du Lin's driving skills were excellent, and the speed was very fast. They arrived at their destination in about 2 hours. Jing Yunjiao read books all the way. The car was extremely quiet, and Li Xiaoyun did not disturb her. The three of them first found a hotel to check in. When night fell, they drove to the club. This is the place? It's quite luxurious, and the business seems to be good, Du Lin muttered. Li Xiaoyun had already brought Jing Yunjiao out of the car and walked towards the entrance. Chapter 466. In front of them was a tall building with a fountain and a flower bed in front of it. Around it were some commercial buildings or office buildings, full of a serious atmosphere. If it was during the day, outsiders might think that this place was ordinary, but now it was night. The whole building was covered with orange light, which was particularly eye-catching in the dark. At the entrance of the building, one could see the luxurious decoration. The outer wall followed the design of an ancient castle, with stained glass inlaid on both sides. Under the shining light, it was particularly bright. This clubhouse was called Imperial Pleasure Royal Court, a domineering and eye-catching name. Du Lin stopped the car and hurriedly caught up with Jing Yunjiao's group, walking inside. As soon as they entered the clubhouse, Jing Yunjiao was surprised. Previously, when she was invited by Hongwan, she also went to a private entertainment clubhouse, but compared to this one, it was completely different. The hall was golden, crystal lights were like the moon, and 2 rows of men and women stood there to welcome the guests. All of them were handsome and beautiful, very eye-catching. As soon as the 3 of them entered, someone immediately came forward to greet them. Hello, do you have an appointment? 9th floor, Li Xiaoyun said simply. Hearing this, the other party didn't need Li Xiaoyun to explain and said, Please come with me. Jing Yunjiao was more and more confused, but with Li Xiaoyun, she wasn't worried. They entered the elevator and went directly to the 9th floor. After going in, Jing Yunjiao more or less understood. The top floor of the clubhouse was not small, and the atmosphere was similar to a bar, but very different. There was a dance floor and wine, surrounded by gauze curtains and high glass walls. Standing at the window, one could see the surrounding scenery. Li Xiaoyun took Jing Yunjiao and Du Lin to find a place to sit down, and then he explained, This Imperial Pleasure Royal Court is not very clean. There are about 4,000 to 5,000 people in the public relations department. There are all kinds of people, all kinds of appearances, and everything. The lower floors are designed with private rooms and halls. A trip here costs at least 5,000 yuan. According to estimates, the boss's annual income is not less than 200 million. Not clean, right? Du Lin couldn't help but ask, Can it be clean? Li Xiaoyun smiled, crossed his legs, leaned on the sofa, and ordered a few bottles of good wine and a fruit plate. Jing Yunjiao couldn't understand why Li Xiaoyun brought her here. It couldn't be just to see how others made money, right? In a place like this, most of the women here had to sell their bodies. She was not interested. There was even some disgust. Zhao, don't be angry yet. Look at who that person is. Li Xiaoyun saw Jing Yunjiao's ugly expression and pointed at the person who was in the arms of a woman in the distance. Jing Yunjiao frowned and followed his gaze. He instantly saw young Master Meng. Du Lin pursed his lips. Could the friend he was talking about be Meng Lin? No wonder the word friend sounded so murderous. Was Li Xiaoyun here to cause trouble? Meng Lin? Does he have a share here? Jing Yunjiao was smart enough to ask. That's right. This clubhouse is a joint venture between Meng Lin and a few of his friends. They'll pay for it and Meng Lin will take the shares. As long as he can ensure the safety of this clubhouse, it's fine, Li Xiaoyun said. Jing Yunjiao was surprised. Then it was no wonder. This clubhouse was located in a bustling area of Serene City. From the outside, it looked similar to other clubhouses. However, upon entering the 9th floor, one would discover that the difference was huge. Simply put, the transactions between men and women here were somewhat brazen. Even an open hall like the 9th floor was like this, not to mention the private rooms below. If there was no identity like Meng Lin to protect them, how could they be so rampant? Chapter 467. Jing Yunjiao was very disgusted with Meng Lin. Firstly, she hated this kind of pestering and self-righteous young master. Secondly, he had threatened her time and time again. You want to find trouble with Meng Lin? Can you do it? I heard that Meng Lin's deceased father had a wide network of connections. His uncle is also the boss of Ning City, Jing Yunjiao said with some concern. If it weren't for this layer of relationship, she would have already crippled Meng Lin. Living in this world, sometimes people have to bow their heads. Even if she didn't want to, she had to take a step back and wait for an opportunity to act. If she bravely went forward regardless of everything, she might win sometimes. But there was also a chance that she would break her head and bleed. Therefore, although she had sternly rejected Meng Lin, she didn't go too far. She had to think of a countermeasure before she could act. Moreover, she had already asked Pak Yuan to hire people to investigate everyone in the Meng family, big or small. However, Jing Yunjiao had only ordered Pak Yuan a few days ago. How could they get to Meng Lin's Meng family so quickly? Two handsome men. I am Sister Yun. Do you need the services of a beauty? Just as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, a flirtatious woman walked over. She looked to be around 30 years old, but her tacky appearance made her seem like an ancient brothel keeper. Beside her stood two beautiful ladies. One was enchanting and charming, while the other was pure and moving. The two women looked at Li Xiaoyun at almost the same time. One kept giving him flirtatious looks, while the other lowered her head shyly. Jing Yunjiao's mouth suddenly moved, and she smiled. Li Xiaoyun's temperament was somewhat like a big boss in a dark nightclub. If there were several women around him, the scene would definitely be very beautiful. Get lost. Li Xiaoyun's face suddenly became ugly. Handsome, don't be angry. Are you looking down on these two? Our imperial city has many beautiful women. I don't know what you like. Cute, virtuous, or intellectual? Sister Yun smiled, not at all embarrassed. As the other party spoke, he looked at Jing Yunjiao. Seeing her outstanding appearance and different temperament, he knew that she must be some family's young miss. In this kind of situation, a woman who was too enchanting and in the limelight would not be liked. How about this? I'll let Xiaoqing accompany the two of you. She graduated from a prestigious university, and today is the first time she's appearing in public. He pushed the girl who looked very innocent over. Most of the people in this clubhouse were businessmen who were discussing business. It was easy to be impulsive under the influence of alcohol and women. However, there were also some rich young masters or daughters who brought people to have fun. Although Jing Yunjiao was a girl, that woman would not be stupid enough to compare her with the women here. Otherwise, she would definitely offend people. A trace of panic flashed across the face of the girl who was pushed over. She clenched her fists, took a deep breath, smiled, and walked to Jing Yunjiao's side. Little girl, can I sit with you for a while? Compared to the other guests in the club, the three in front of him were clearly different. Especially the two men. They did not have wretched eyes like the others. Moreover, they looked good. They shouldn't be bad people. Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows. Although she was speaking politely, her expression was looking at Li Xiaoyun. She could not help but smile. Li Xiaoyun. This was not directed at her. She did not have the leisure to sit and chat with strangers. Li Xiaoyun did not look carefully at the girl called Xiaoqing. He said directly, "Take her away. Don't disturb us." Chapter 468. Hearing those words, the other party was taken aback. Sister Yun instantly understood. Not all the men and women who came here required special treatment. Some of them would put on an act of rejecting the offer on their first visit. Then, she would push the offer for a bit longer. However, if the other party were to reject the offer, she would not pester them. Thus, Sister Yun quickly called Xiaoqing back. If that is the case, we will not disturb the three of you any further. If the three of you have any requests, please do not hesitate to ask the waiter. After saying that, she gave the three of them a courteous smile before dragging the two women away. Sister Yun, that man is so handsome, said the enchanting woman beside Sister Yun as she ran her fingers through her hair. Yes, he is handsome. However, you cannot judge a book by its cover. He may look like a playboy, but that may not be the case. Tell the sisters to behave yourselves. Do not pounce on any men you see. Otherwise, I will deduct your wages. Also, Xiaoqing, Ame, go to the table over there, said Sister Yun. She had seen many men in her life. Some of them were well-dressed, but the moment they laid eyes on women, they would turn into wolves and tigers. However, there were also some who were not interested in beauty at all. The two men from earlier were particularly handsome and exuded an extraordinary aura. It was likely that their identities were not simple. There was no need to mention the way they dressed. Their eyes exuded a cold and distant aura. They appeared to be 30% gentlemanly and 70% casual. However, they were definitely very strict people. The two women she brought with her could be considered to be above average in terms of looks within the clubhouse. However, the two men did not even spare them a glance. Clearly, they were not interested in women. Sister Yun, that table, that man, I don't want him, said Xiaoqing, feeling wronged. There were 4 to 5 men at the table over there. They were all older, in their 30s or 40s. They did not have good looks and had beer bellies. One glance was all it took to tell that they were not good people. When she said that, Ame rolled her eyes and smiled. Big sister, do you think you are a queen? You think you can pick men? Please think carefully. We are the ones who will be picked. She despised women like her the most. When they came to this clubhouse for the interview, did they not know what kind of job they would be doing in the future? Why are they pretending to be pure now? Xiaoqing looked aggrieved. Sister Yun frowned. She was also somewhat displeased. If you don't want to do it, you can leave now. But don't forget, you have signed a contract with Dixiang. The clothes you are wearing, the cosmetics on your face, everything is provided by us. If you want to leave now, you will not be able to escape the 500,000 yuan penalty. The income of the women here was not low. Most of them earned more than 100,000 yuan a month. Of course, although the income was not small, the expenses were also high. In the beginning, they would cover their clothes and cosmetics, but after a month, they would have to rely on their own ability to buy them. The more beautiful and tasteful a person was, the more popular they would be. When Xiaoqing heard this, tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't help but turn to look in the direction of Li Xiaoyun and Jing Yunjiao. She lowered her head in grievance and walked over with small steps. Young Master Li is so charming. Jing Yunjiao smiled and took a sip of wine. But you brought me here just to see how Meng Lin's business is doing? Of course not. I brought you here to watch a show. Li Xiaoyun smiled mysteriously. The next moment, he reached for the dice on the table and said, Wait, within an hour. Jing Yunjiao's eyes lit up. He was extremely curious. Chapter 469. Jing Yunjiao didn't know what Li Xiaoyun wanted to do, but since she was already here, she wasn't in a hurry. The three of them played dice for fun, but less than 10 minutes later, they heard a commotion from the table next to them. The girl from before had tears on her face as she was being dragged by a man. She seemed to be very resistant. Du Lin frowned. Aren't you going to help? This girl seems to be quite pure. Li Xiaoyun curled his lips and snorted. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. Why? Don't you think so? When Sister Yun brought this girl over, I saw that her face was as red as a lobster. She seemed quite pitiful. Du Lin added. That girl was petite and looked very cute. Although he wasn't interested, it didn't seem good to watch a girl being forced on by a man, right? But he could understand Li Xiaoyun's reaction because he was a person who didn't care. But Jing Yunjiao, seeing Du Lin's suspicious gaze, Jing Yunjiao said, Brother Du, if you want to save her, I won't object. But first, you have to prepare enough money and be prepared to be blamed. Why do you say that? Such an obedient girl. Du Lin was speechless. Was everyone in the world a bad person? She is quite obedient, but would an obedient person come here? You can say that she came from a poor family and had nowhere to go, but I feel that no matter what, she should have dignity as a person. Poverty might just be an excuse to fall. Jing Yunjiao said, since she chose to come here, she should have the courage to take responsibility. Also, she doesn't reject the touch of any man, but that kind of man. If it were you or Li Xiaoyun, I think she would use her fluttering heart as a foil. This was Ning City, one of the most prosperous cities. There were countless jobs and opportunities. This sister Yun said that she came from a famous university, and she looked like it. She had the aura of a scholar. But since that was the case, she should be someone with brains. Could it be that she couldn't find another job, or couldn't think of what she had to face? If she thought that it was just drinking and chatting, Jing Yunjiao wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. There were also ladies here who were only in charge of drinking. It was impossible for them not to know when they applied for the job. When Du Lin heard this, he choked and was speechless. Yunjiao, I've realized that you're a little too calm. You're always analyzing and thinking. You're not like a little girl at all. Du Lin was a little speechless. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not the brainless female lead of a romantic drama who wants to rush over and save anyone who's suffering. People should act according to their abilities. Things should be seen through first, Jing Yunjiao said slowly. Du Lin rolled his eyes. Jing Yunjiao was especially thin. Her entire body was sunk into the sofa. Because of the difference in temperature between the room and the outside, her face was slightly red. Her skin was very good, but there was a hint of immaturity. The way she sat there motionlessly and hugged her drink made her look like a kitten. She was cool and cute, but when she opened her mouth, she always said such sarcastic words that made people speechless. And Li Xiaoyun, Du Lin finally knew why the two of them could always get along. They were exactly the same kind of people. However, Du Lin wasn't an impulsive hero. After interacting with Li Xiaoyun for so many years, he had more or less a subtle influence. Therefore, when Jing Yunjiao said that, he didn't have any thoughts of being a hero saving the damsel in distress. It was just that the three of them didn't make a move, but someone else took the initiative to approach. Chapter 470. Under the ambiguous light, the woman splashed wine on the face of one of the men at the table. She caught the man off guard and hurriedly ran towards Jing Yunjiao. Her target was clear, and her movements were nimble. In the next moment, she directly pounced on Li Xiaoyun. Li Xiaoyun leaned to one side, not a single leaf on his body, and leaned towards Jing Yunjiao. The woman was stunned, but her small face was soon covered in tears. She felt extremely wronged and said, "Sir, please help me." She looked delicate and pitiful, and her attitude was humble and polite. She said again, "Sir, I beg you, help me once. Help me once. Miss, I think you'd better." Du Lin was just about to ask her to leave when he saw the girl sobbing. "Why are you like this? I don't want to lose my chastity. You stinky men only know how to seek pleasure. You don't even think about how hard it is for us women." Du Lin's mouth twitched. Was this woman all right? How could they be making merry? Furthermore, although this woman looked especially young and beautiful, and could even be said to be cute, she was still 22 or 23 years old, right? She was already an adult. Was it really good to act cute like this? Jing Yunjiao was a few years younger than her, but she had never seen Jing Yunjiao acting coquettishly. The men at the table next to them also chased over. They were clearly stunned by Li Xiaoyun's aura and were also somewhat cautious. "Sir, I'm sorry, this lady is from our table. Then quickly take her away," Du Lin hurriedly said. He did have some sympathy for this woman, but now that he saw her reaction, he felt a little disgusted. If she really didn't want to do it, why didn't she resist earlier? Why did she have to wait until someone touched and kissed her before she regretted it? And even if she regretted it, she shouldn't look for them, right? After all, they were also customers. If they took her from the other party, they would also have to spend money, and she would still have to accompany them. The only difference was that young Master Li was good-looking and looked like a rich young master. The man on the other side also heaved a sigh of relief and went forward to pull Xiaoqing away. They were also furious. The wine here was very expensive. They specially set up a table to entertain customers. The other ladies were performing well, but this woman suddenly went crazy and splashed red wine all over the customer. She was simply unreasonable. He still had to make her apologize to the client later. When Xiaoqing saw this, she was dumbfounded. Why didn't they stop him? Couldn't he tell that she was different from other women? "I'm not going. Handsome guys, I'm not a young lady here. This is really my first time experiencing something like this. Can you please help me? I don't want to be a lost girl. Handsome guys, I beg you. Xiaoqing hurriedly said to Li Xiaoyun and Du Lin. Jing Yunjiao hugged the drink tightly and took a big gulp, pretending not to see it. Her reaction was indeed a little heartless. After all, if she could save this woman, it would also be a merit. However, she still felt that it was unnecessary. Reality was not a predetermined plot. Not to mention romance novels, not everyone met a tall, powerful, handsome, and rich male protagonist when they fell. The heroes saved the damsel in distress, promised to marry him, helped each other in times of need, and lived happily ever after. Haha, how is that possible? Jing Yunjiao didn't say anything and remained silent. She just sat there quietly and didn't attract any criticism. Li Xiaoyun was obviously annoyed by this woman's noise. He raised his hand and the waiter not far away immediately ran over. Sir, drag this ugly woman away. I don't want to see her appear in my sight again, Li Xiaoyun said coldly. Chapter 471. Li Xiaoyun's voice was cold and contained a sense of deterrence. Hearing that, the waiter quickly called for 2 other people to bring the woman away. Seeing that, Sister Yun quickly walked over as well. Xiaoqing, Sister Yun, this woman poured red wine on a customer. What do you think we should do? The customer who was originally seated at the table was also dissatisfied. They were here to have fun, not to cause trouble. Even if they brought this woman back, she might not apologize. Instead, it would be troublesome. Sister Yun also understood the situation and quickly said, I am sorry. How about this? I will invite 2 more beautiful ladies over. I will give you a 30% discount on the drinks at your table. What do you think? The customer did not want to cause trouble. Forget it. Just treat it as my bad luck. After saying that, he ignored Xiaoqing and angrily returned to his seat. After the customer left, Sister Yun looked at Xiaoqing with an ugly expression. Hurry up and bring her away. Several waiters quickly nodded and stepped forward to pull the cart. Seeing that, Xiaoqing knew that she was done for today. She panicked and quickly cried. Mister, can you help me? Li Xiaoyun frowned in disgust. Xiaoqing panicked. She had been a good girl since she was young. Her appearance was also very likable. No matter where she went, she would be the center of attention. However, despite her good looks, she had a bad life. Her parents were not around, and she was placed in the care of her aunt. She also had to support her 2 younger brothers. However, after signing the contract, she regretted it. The women here were all dressed to the nines. In order to make the customers happy, they would do everything in their power. More importantly, the customers were disgusting. Although she had a boyfriend, their relationship was very pure. They had never been so open. How could she accept it? Seeing that Li Xiaoyun was ignoring her, Xiaoqing felt as if the sky had darkened and the earth had darkened. She was so scared that her whole body was trembling. In the next second, she saw the silent Jing Yunjiao and hurriedly said, Little sister, can you help me persuade your brother? I am really different from the women here. Even if I die, I will not let other men touch me. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Really? Hearing that, Jing Yunjiao's face changed. She felt that her worldview was about to be distorted. So what if she didn't allow anyone to touch her and had a boyfriend? What did it have to do with her? And since she already had a boyfriend, why did she still come? From the looks of it, she must have hidden something from the other party before coming here, right? Can't the 2 of them discuss such an important matter? Sorry, I don't like to meddle in other people's business, Jing Yunjiao said lightly. When the other party heard this, her cute face cracked. She immediately pointed at Jing Yunjiao and said, Little girl, how can you do this? Why don't you help me? To think that I thought you were a good person. In the next second, she stared at Li Xiaoyun and began to cry again. You well-dressed beast. You clearly know that I won't have a good ending if I'm captured, but you still don't care about me. Fine, then let me die. I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. From now on, I'll go to your bedside every day to keep an eye on you, so that you won't be able to get close to women for the rest of your life. Woo-woo. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. She licked her lips. Are you sure you are not deliberately trying to attract Li Xiaoyun's attention? Sister Yun frowned in anger. However, due to the large number of guests present, she did not want to cause too much of a ruckus. Li Xiaoyun looked at Jing Yunzhao and straightened his body. There was a faint smile on his face, and his eyes were deep. How do you want me to help you? Chapter 472. Hearing Li Xiaoyun's words, Xiaoqing was taken aback. Then, she sobbed and said, I can accompany you to drink. Jing Yunzhao smiled inwardly. Accompanying him to drink is the first step, right? Then what? Take the opportunity to develop some feelings? Or perhaps, like those romance novels that Suchu often read, she would bicker with Li Xiaoyun, making him unable to forget her. Then, he would pull her out of the fire pit. If she had just met Li Xiaoyun, she might have believed that he was a womanizer who would do something like that. Now, however, she could at least guarantee that he was not someone who would take a liking to just any woman. If that is the case, you can stay. A few seconds later, Li Xiaoyun suddenly spoke up. After saying that, Sister Yun was taken aback. However, she squeezed out a smile and said, I am very sorry. Just consider these bottles of wine as my treat. After saying that, she breathed a sigh of relief and walked out. Xiaoqing's actions were against the rules. However, if she could pull in a big customer because of this, she would be lucky. After Sister Yun left with the waiters, Xiaoqing breathed a sigh of relief. She awkwardly got up from the ground. Without needing Li Xiaoyun to call her over, she moved to sit between him and Jing Yunzhao. However, before she could sit down, Li Xiaoyun said, Who allowed you to sit here? Xiaoqing was taken aback. She felt even more wronged. If you don't want to sit, then so be it. Don't think that I will forgive you just because you asked me to stay. You stubborn stinking man. Xiaoqing immediately scolded him. Rather than scolding, it would be more accurate to say that she was rebuking him. She spoke with a childish tone, making her look very cute. Jing Yunzhao was speechless. Did she think that the world revolved around her? After saying that, the woman turned and sat down beside Du Lin. In the blink of an eye, she became even more bashful and bashful. Thank you. Du Lin's hand froze, and he secretly shook his head. This woman was no fool. However, the way she acted made it seem as though she was ignorant and fearless. Earlier, she was the one who kept pestering Li Xiaoyun. After Li Xiaoyun spoke up, instead of thanking him, she opened her mouth to cause trouble. Not only that, she even thanked him. She was probably doing this on purpose to make Li Xiaoyun unhappy and angry so that he would notice her. Du Lin rubbed his eyebrows. No wonder Jing Yunzhao didn't let him help just now. But it was also strange. Why did young Master Li change his mind? He didn't seem like such a fickle person. Since you're a hostess, you should act like one. Here's what's on the table. Drink up, Li Xiaoyun said without even raising his head. When the girl heard this, she pouted. It's not a big deal. Let's drink. If you have the ability, why don't you compete with me? Jing Yunzhao sneered. She had taken the initiative to say that she wanted to drink with him, but now he was acting so arrogant and wanted to compete with her alcohol tolerance. Was she worthy? Li Xiaoyun ignored her words. He peeled an apple for Jing Yunzhao and handed it over. His gentle gaze startled Xiaoqing. So this stinky man had a gentle side to him. But was his sister the only one who was human? She didn't even care about other people's dignity. No wonder she would spoil such a bad-hearted girl. I'm talking to you. Xiaoqing pouted and said again. She wasn't that old. When she was cute, she was indeed very eye-catching. However, at this moment, Jing Yunzhao, this young girl, was present. Her attitude seemed to be taking advantage of her seniority. Du Lin had a good relationship with Li Xiaoyun, so he understood what he meant. He also teased this woman a little more. He reached out and placed a bottle of wine in front of her. Please. Chapter 473. A bottle of wine with over 50% alcohol, no matter how good it tasted, she probably wouldn't be able to tell the directions after drinking it. Xiaoqing was stunned. I'm not drinking. Miss, don't you know who you are? Weren't you the one who offered to drink with him? Of course, we're all civilized people and won't force you, but I believe that Sister Yun will be happy to teach you, Du Lin said directly. Du Lin looked like a gentle big brother next door, so when Xiaoqing stayed behind, she approached Du Lin with a friendly attitude. But sometimes, one's appearance might not be the same as one's heart. Du Lin was indeed generous and polite, but he was also someone who had interacted with Li Xiaoyun for a few years. If he was a kind person who liked to meddle in other people's business, Li Xiaoyun would have been unwilling to talk to him. Birds of a feather flocked together. Du Lin had at least some basic understanding. Li Xiaoyun wouldn't act like a domineering CEO with this girl. He thought about it carefully. The reason why he kept her was probably not to help, but because she said that Li Xiaoyun and Jing Yunjiao were siblings. So he wasn't too happy. He was very clear about Li Xiaoyun's intentions. When Du Lin said that, Xiaoqing's face turned pale. She bit her lip and showed an aggrieved look. Fine, I'll drink. The next second, she picked up the bottle and stuffed it into her mouth. But the alcohol was so strong that it made her face turn red. However, Xiaoqing showed a strong and courageous look, refusing to admit defeat. Her eyes were red as she continued to drink. She looked like a pitiful person who was forced into a helpless situation. It made the three of them look like they were forcing a good girl into prostitution. Unfortunately, Li Xiaoyun didn't even look at her after she drank the wine. The way she stood up unsteadily and continued to drink attracted quite a few people's attention. Meng Lin, who wasn't far away, had also noticed it. He took a closer look and saw Jing Yunjiao's cold and cheerless face. He immediately pushed the woman beside him aside and walked over. "Miss Jing," Meng Lin called out. But when he saw Li Xiaoyun, Meng Lin's face darkened and his mouth twitched. Previously, this man had hit his head with a firework, causing him to have a concussion and stay in the hospital for a few days. He had yet to settle the score with him. These days, he had asked someone to investigate the man's identity, but after all, he had only met him on the road. He didn't even know the man's name, so naturally, he knew nothing. Now that he had met him, he must find out where this jinx came from. How dare he lay his hands on young Master Ming? Li Xiaoyun glanced at him. "Young Master Ming, is it? Could you please move away a little? The air is not so good." "Brat, it's just some martial arts. What kind of skill is that?" Meng Lin gritted his teeth and said, "A chance meeting is better than an invitation. Since we've met here, why don't we have a good chat? Jing Yunjiao, don't you like this man because he's rich? Let me tell you, no one has ever dared to compete with me. Young Master Ming, aren't you just trying to whet my appetite? All right, I'll tell you. You've succeeded. Are you satisfied?" Meng Lin asked again. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaoqing wobbled and pointed at Jing Yunjiao. "Huh, aren't you brother and sister? All right, are you forcing yourself on a minor?" Xiaoqing immediately glared at him. She raised her leg to pull Jing Yunjiao away and said, "Little girl, don't be afraid. We'll call the police and send this stinky man to prison." Chapter 474. Xiaoqing's angry roar shocked many people around her. Even Meng Lin's mouth twitched. He couldn't understand. Was there something wrong with this woman's brain? Call the police? What did she think this place was? The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched as she unceremoniously pulled her arm back and dusted it off before saying, "Miss, first of all, I wasn't forced by anyone, and I'm not afraid. Also, the stinky man you're talking about is my friend. He didn't do anything to let you down, and he even saved you from that Sister Yun's hands just now. So, I'll have to trouble you to clean your mouth a bit. As a person, you should have your own responsibilities. If you really have as much self-respect as you appear to have, then I'll respect you." Some men and women were indeed forced to do this, but at least they knew their place and didn't find excuses for themselves. However, this woman in front of him blamed her choice on others. She thought she was different. What was different about her? If there was a difference, it was that she was more ambitious and found a better advantage. For example, if she could capture the heart of a man with enough weight, she would be completely reborn. It was better to rely on oneself than on heaven and earth. How could she look up to someone who had the ability and capital but insisted on taking shortcuts? After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, Xiaoqing's body swayed. She looked wronged. "You? How can you say that about me? How am I inferior to them? I graduated from a famous university. If I was given a chance, I could make a name for myself. They only rely on their beauty and bodies. It's different. Jing Yunjiao suddenly smiled. This smile was as light as the wind, but it was slightly cold. Famous university? They didn't teach you to come to such a place when you have no other choice, did they? Also, looking at you, I don't think you've even done something like a part-time job when you were in school. Did you waste all your time on dating? Jing Yunjiao suddenly laughed and asked. If she was a person who worked part-time when she was in school, she would have known that she couldn't offend others after graduation. Work was the best way to hone a person's edge. For someone like Xiaoqing, no matter what she did, the boss might not like her. She thought that she was bright and righteous and would interfere in everything. She used her good looks to cause trouble everywhere. Wouldn't the boss be furious to meet such an employee? Besides, her hands were clean, her posture was unruly, and her eyes were unruly. It was obvious that she had not undergone any work training. Xiaoqing's face flushed red. Her lips were red, and she was beautiful. Her eyelashes fluttered like butterflies, and she revealed an innocent look. Her mouth moved as she said, You little sister, you're too evil. I wanted to help you, so why are you making things difficult for me? After saying that, she looked helplessly at the three men around her. Meng Lin was a little surprised for a moment. Was this a woman from his imperial court? The corner of his mouth twitched. He had to admit that she was beautiful, but she was a little brainless. However, she was his woman after all, Meng Lin snorted. Miss Jing, you're quite generous. You even accompanied this gentleman to socialize. But last time we met, we didn't have time to get to know each other. May I know his name? Meng Lin's attitude was arrogant. As he spoke, he took Xiaoqing and pinched her face. The two gentlemen have good taste. This girl is fair and beautiful. But Miss Jing, I can guarantee that if you were with me, I wouldn't find other women to embarrass you. Chapter 475. Xiaoqing was instantly enraged by his embrace. What are you doing? Don't touch me. Jing Yunjiao was instantly amused. Meng Lin gritted his teeth. Jing Yunjiao and this brainless woman were polar opposites. How could such a stupid woman be worthy of working for him? He really didn't know which idiot signed her. Li Xiaoyun's expression was somewhat playful. My surname is Li. This surname was not common. Meng Lin was annoyed by his attitude, but at least he was not ignorant now. He lifted his leg and sat on the sofa next to him. He glanced at the dice on the table. Where are you from, Mr. Li? The capital? That's right. Li Xiaoyun was very magnanimous. Meng Lin snorted. No wonder. If he was from Serene City, wouldn't he be scared to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy? How would he dare to pester the woman he liked? But so what if he was from the capital? The Meng family knew many people. Even if he was from the capital, as long as he wanted to, he could still make him disappear completely from this world. How about a bet? Meng Lin was patient. He paused, pointed at Jing Yunjiao and Xiaoqing, and said, Let's bet on them. If I win, you give Jing Yunjiao to me and stay far away from her. If you win, I'll give Xiaoqing to you. You can do whatever you want with her. How about it? Meng Lin added. A trace of killing intent flashed in Li Xiaoyun's eyes. He snorted and said coldly, How can a shameless woman be compared to her? If you want to bet, you can bet on yourself. If you lose, you'll lose an arm. Li Xiaoyun added. When Meng Lin heard this, he was a little angry. You said it. Let's have 5 rounds. If you lose all of them, I'll break your limbs and make you unable to be a man. Meng Lin grew up at the gambling table. If he dared to say he was second, no one dared to say they were first in front of him. This Li guy wanted to beat him? Dream on. I hope you can do it. Li Xiaoyun's mood was inexplicably good. After he finished speaking, Meng Lin asked someone to tidy up the table. Xiaoqing, who was beside him, was still somewhat muddle-headed and unable to understand the situation. Earlier, they had clearly said that they were going to use her as a bet. Why did they suddenly want to bet on her arm and leg? Looking at Jing Yunjiao, Xiaoqing bit her lip. What? Why couldn't she be compared to this little girl? Jing Yunjiao had some understanding of Li Xiaoyun's gambling skills. Before Meng Lin and Xiaoqing arrived, the three of them had played for a while. She and Li Xiaoyun had not made any mistakes, so after playing for a while, they felt a little bored. It was not that they were born with amazing gambling skills, but after practicing martial arts, their hearing was better than that of ordinary people. This wasn't a casino, so there weren't so many fancy gambling methods. It was just a matter of whether it was big or small. No matter how experienced Meng Lin was, he was just an ordinary person. Moreover, in such a chaotic situation, the chances of him making a mistake were very high. Therefore, in her opinion, there was almost no comparison. What's more, even if Li Xiaoyan won, Meng Lin wouldn't admit defeat, right? At that time, it would be easy for them to escape with their numbers advantage. However, it was impossible for Li Xiaoyan not to know this. Since he still wanted to gamble, he should have his own reasons. While Jing Yunjiao was in a daze, the table in front of her had been cleaned up. Young Master Ming immediately said with confidence, "Let's do something simple. 2 beauties will shake the dice. Whoever guesses correctly will win." As soon as Meng Lin said this, Xiaoqing's eyes lit up. "Then I'll do it." After saying this, her little face turned red again. Jing Yunjiao shrugged, indicating that it didn't matter. Meng Lin frowned but didn't say much. Chapter 476. Meng Lin nodded in agreement. Xiaoqing immediately picked up the dice and shook it. Perhaps because she had drunk a lot of wine, she used a lot of strength. After a while, she stopped shaking. However, the moment she placed the dice on the table, she moved again. She squinted her eyes and revealed a cute smile. Meng Lin stared at her, and the disgust in his heart grew. He had tasted many women, and there were all kinds of them. This Xiaoqing had nowhere to hide in front of him. If it were any other time, he might have some patience to play with such a woman. However, after seeing Jing Yunjiao and looking at her, he did not have any thoughts. She looked innocent and ignorant, but she loved to show off. Her performance was a little too much. However, Xiaoqing did not realize it. After putting down the dice, she said sweetly, "Guess, stinky man, don't blame me for not helping you. I purposely got closer to you just now." She looked like she wanted to take credit. Jing Yunjiao frowned and said in disgust, "Don't try to be smart. Do it again." Get closer to Li Xiaoyan? Did she mean to cheat for Li Xiaoyan? She thought she was infallible. It was impossible for Li Xiaoyan to lose. However, if she behaved like this, Meng Lin would not admit defeat even if he lost. "Why? Little girl, don't always find trouble with me, okay? I was doing fine, and I even helped that stinky man," Xiaoqing said again. The number of people Jing Yunjiao had met that she disliked wasn't few, but this Xiaoqing was still one of the best. He looked at her coldly. "Either do it again, or I'll call Sister Yun over to take you back. It's up to you." When Xiaoqing heard that, tears of grievance flashed in her eyes. "Okay, I know. Let's do it again. What's the big deal?" As she spoke, she picked up the dice cup again and shook it fiercely. Her mood wasn't good, so she used the dice to vent her anger. She looked as if she wanted to shatter the dice into pieces. After she was done, she even purposely made a face at Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao smacked her lips. This woman was so stupid that there was no cure for her. Did she think everyone was a fool? Would they be hit by her so-called cuteness and feel that she was special? Would they feel that she was unique? He was just walking further and further down the path of courting death. At this moment, Meng Lin's eyes were solemn. He wrote a number on the paper beside him. Li Xiaoyan finished slowly. In the next moment, Xiaoqing immediately took the paper from the 2 people. After opening it, she said, "Young Master Ming guessed 18 points, and the stinky man guessed 22 points. Who is right? Then, let me reveal the answer." After talking to himself for a while, he opened the lid. However, young Master Ming's face darkened the moment he saw it. He made a mistake. The main thing was that he didn't expect this Li guy to guess correctly. Logically speaking, even if he was wrong by 1 or 2 numbers, it shouldn't have affected him. Frowning, Li Xiaoyan rubbed his forehead and said, "Let's continue. Let's end this quickly." Meng Lin felt even more embarrassed. "I just made a mistake. I don't believe that you can win every time." As he spoke, the second round began. Li Xiaoyan looked lazy and didn't have much fighting spirit. On the other hand, Meng Lin was especially attentive because he lost the first round. However, when the numbers for the second round came out, He found that he was only off by one number, while Li Xiaoyun was exactly the same. He even wrote down the combination of numbers. Damn woman, did you do something to it? Meng Lin suddenly slapped Xiaoqing shamelessly. Chapter 477. A moment ago, Xiaoqing was still looking at Li Xiaoyun with admiration. The next moment, she was slapped by Meng Lin and spun around 3 times. She felt as if there were stars above her head, and she fell to the ground. Meng Lin had been tolerating her for a long time. As his subordinate, she actually sided with an outsider and stared at Li Xiaoyun with a lustful expression. Did she think he was dead? Meng Lin naturally knew that Xiaoqing couldn't have faked it. She didn't have the opportunity or ability to do so. But now, in order to give himself a way out, someone had to make a sacrifice. Xiaoqing raised her head in a daze and saw Meng Lin's angry face. She also saw many women coming over to calm young Master Meng down. Her heart trembled. I didn't. Xiaoqing felt wronged. The reason why she looked at the stinky man was because he was indeed a feast for the eyes. Although it was her first day at work, she had heard from Sister Yun that young Master Meng was a playboy. She hated playboys the most. Of course, she would not speak up for young Master Meng. You said you didn't. You don't want to admit it? I'll teach you a lesson, young Master Meng said gloomily. As he spoke, someone pulled Xiaoqing over. Xiaoqing couldn't believe that she was going to face danger again in such a short time. She immediately scratched, punched, and kicked. Stinky man, save me. It's all because of you that I was bullied. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. He was like a rock and didn't move at all. Jing Yunjiao was even more confused. Meng Lin obviously slipped away when he was about to teach Xiaoqing a lesson, right? He obviously found an excuse to leave when he realized that he had no chance of winning. Why didn't Li Xiaoyun stop him? Meng Lin's expression was ugly. He asked someone to drag Xiaoqing into the elevator. Tell Sister Yun to send something to Li Xiaoyun and the other 2. He treated Jing Yunjiao like a treasure, but she refused to give him face again and again. Since that was the case, he didn't want this woman anymore. After giving the order, Meng Lin laughed evilly and dragged Xiaoqing to a private room on the lower floor. He threw her inside and began to take off his tie in the next second. Xiaoqing saw this and turned pale with fright. She quickly shouted, "Don't come over. What are you doing? Stinky man, save me. Idiot." Meng Lin spat. He originally thought that the man with the surname Li had really taken a liking to Xiaoqing, but after being in a daze for a while, he realized that this woman was imagining things. What a disgrace. However, Xiaoqing didn't think so. Even at this moment, she still felt that the incomparably handsome man would definitely appear. Her boyfriend said that she was like an angel, and she thought so too. Therefore, no matter what she did, she was the best. Moreover, if that stinking man wasn't interested in her, how could he keep her? He must have liked her, that's why he helped her. It was just that that little girl was present, so he couldn't come over. After a few minutes, he pretended that he had something to do and then descended in front of her like a god. Xiaoqing screamed at the top of her lungs as she fantasized. She scrambled up from the sofa in the private room, grabbed a pillow, and kept throwing it at Meng Lin. She wanted to stall for time. Soon, someone would come to save her. He must be able to see that she was so disgusted by other men approaching her. Xiaoqing was flustered and anxious, but she was also looking forward to it. From the first time she saw that man, she couldn't help but be moved. She had never seen such an outstanding person. Even if he sat there motionless, he could still make her heart beat faster. Chapter 478. Xiaoqing's reaction made Meng Lin lose some of his patience. If it was in the past, perhaps such a woman would have piqued his interest. However, it was different now. He was the dignified young Master Meng. It was fine if Jing Yunjiao did not treat him differently, but he dared to treat a young lady of the imperial royal court this way? After receiving the pillow that Xiaoqing threw over, the man threw it to the ground. In the next second, he no longer restrained himself and rushed up to give her a good beating. A woman's strength was much weaker than a man's. Furthermore, Meng Lin was still in a state of rage. Therefore, it did not take long for Xiaoqing to be straddled under him. Her hands were tightly pressed down, and her face was strangely red from the slap. The alcohol made her even more dizzy and heavy. She felt that the pitiful amount of clothes on her body were instantly torn apart. The design of these clothes was quite special. Meng Lin was also a veteran of mixing in flowers. Therefore, in a short while, the woman was completely naked. Xiaoqing shuddered when she felt the chill in the air. Why isn't he here yet? Why isn't he here yet? She had lost all her clothes. If he doesn't come now, everything will be too late. He stared at the door, but the door did not move at all. Suddenly, a tearing pain came from his body. His whole body trembled, and his eyes widened in horror. It's over. Woman, you're asking for a beating. You've taken a fancy to that Li guy, haven't you? All right, when I'm done with you, I'll bring you up and let him see. Meng Lin said through gritted teeth. His movements were not gentle at all. Xiaoqing clenched her teeth and cried. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't have developed like this. That man should have come to save her. She endured everything in pain. At this moment, Li Xiaoyan suddenly smiled. He raised his hand to look at his watch and saw that the hands on it were exactly 10:00 in the evening. In the next second, a series of police sirens sounded around the building. Some soldiers suddenly barged into the elevator with guns in their hands and fired 2 shots into the air. Then, everyone was scared out of their wits. Only then did they say coldly, "Put your hands on your heads, or you'll turn into a hornet's nest." The corner of Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. He felt that those people were a bit ruffian. What was going on? Wasn't Meng Lin's uncle the leader of Ning City? Logically speaking, no police officers would dare to come here. Soldiers should be the same, right? Young Master Li? Jing Yunzhao asked suspiciously. The show is about to begin. Are you satisfied? Li Xiaoyun smiled like an old fox. Jing Yunzhao was still a little confused. Don't tell me you called these people here. This is a crime den. Isn't it reasonable to wipe it out? As Li Xiaoyun spoke, he slowly raised his wine cup. However, when he was about to drink, he smelled something unusual. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he pretended not to know anything as he drank it in one gulp. At this moment, the soldiers who had suddenly arrived were also very strange. They chased all these people down from the 9th floor in waves. When only she, Li Xiaoyun, and Du Lin were left on the 9th floor, they looked over and coughed dryly. With a strange smile, they turned around and followed the soldiers downstairs. Since it was so obvious, there was no need to doubt it anymore. However, Jing Yunzhao had thought that he was a gangster. Now, it seemed that it was the opposite. It was just that a leisurely soldier like him seemed a little abnormal. Let's go downstairs and take a look. The 1st floor is probably very lively now. Li Xiaoyun stood up and stretched out his hand in a gentlemanly manner. Chapter 479. Downstairs, the resplendent hall was filled with people. The police had already retrieved the information from the computers. The name list would probably shock the entire Ning City and even the entire country tomorrow. The clubhouse had 9 floors and hundreds of private rooms. There were countless men and women. There were hundreds of executives, not to mention the employees. Bastards! Who allowed you to come? Do you know who my uncle is? Jing Yunzhao heard Meng Lin's angry and arrogant voice as soon as he arrived downstairs. Beside him was a woman who was in a mess. Who else could it be other than Xiaoqing? Xiaoqing gave him a resentful look. Ignoring anyone who tried to stop her, she rushed to Li Xiaoyun. Why didn't you come and save me? I hate you. Li Xiaoyun didn't even look at her. He walked over with Jing Yunzhao. One of the officers stood in front of Li Xiaoyun and pointed at Xiaoqing. Should we let her go? Aren't we here to crack down on prostitution? Then do you think we should let her go? Li Xiaoyun said coldly. The officer swallowed his saliva. I'm just kidding. Ha ha ha. Li Xiaoyun glanced at him. Instantly, the officer stopped talking. The next second, he looked at Jing Yunzhao and pretended to be serious. He explained, sorry, I made a fool of myself. I just think that young Master Li's scarf is too ugly. If he wears something so ugly, it means that he's in a good mood today. Will it kill you to shut up? Li Xiaoyun was speechless. Are you friends? Jing Yunzhao asked. I'm young Master Li's childhood friend. My name is—" Before the officer could speak, Li Xiaoyun dragged Jing Yunjiao to the side. "Don't care what his name is. It's useless even if you know. He's not serious." The officer grinned. His temper was surprisingly good. He didn't chase after them. Instead, he turned around and kicked Ming Lin in the face. "What are you looking at? Cover your head." The military and police worked together, and there were quite a number of people. Police cars came one after another, dragging people to the police station. The local police chief was worried, but he didn't know what to do. The Meng family was indeed a tyrant in Serene City, but this time, it wasn't Serene City's strength that made him move. It was the upper echelons, an upper echelon that he would never be able to touch in his entire life. Furthermore, he only gave a phone call after the surprise attack. Everyone was caught off guard. Meng Lin was even more dumbfounded. Before he could even put on his pants properly, he was locked up. More than 100 executives of the Imperial Royal Court were all controlled. Those who happened to be absent were also captured. As the big boss of the Imperial Royal Court, he was closely monitored. "Look, this is the guy who's trying to steal our boss's woman. TSK, TSK, Tisk." Meng Lin was locked up in a room alone. He was surrounded by a few men who had taken off their military uniforms. "Isn't this courting death?" One of them opened his mouth and said, "If you had managed to snatch it, I would have respected you as a man. In the end, not only did you not manage to snatch it, you even dared to violate the law in front of our boss. Even the gods can't save you. Our boss said that you lost the bet just now. Your arms and legs." Ming Lin's head buzzed as the few of them spoke. "Do you dare to touch me? My dad's former teammates are now in the capital. They are very powerful." Ming Lin was so scared that his legs were trembling. He braced himself and said, "Let's try then. Brothers, let's beat him up first." After saying that, Meng Lin saw the few people's faces magnify in front of him. Meng Lin didn't know that his father's comrades had been given a death order. It was impossible for them to do anything. Moreover, what Meng Lin had done was too big. There were people above him suppressing him. Even if he became the Dragon King, he wouldn't be able to turn the situation around. Chapter 480. Meng Lin's screams kept coming. Before long, there was a pool of blood on the ground, and the tendons of his hands and feet were all broken. Li Xiaoyun was in the hotel, and the three of them were resting. Jing Yunjiao asked Pak Yuan to inquire about the situation. Pak Yuan was also shocked when he got the news. He had heard about the Imperial Royal Court, which had just opened. He was even invited to go there when it opened. But because he heard that this place was guarded by Meng Lin, he directly refused. He just didn't expect that such a place would be destroyed in a blink of an eye. The Imperial Royal Court cost a lot of money when it was built. Just the decoration cost hundreds of millions. Many people knew about some of the transactions inside, but because it had a big backer behind it, no one dared to interfere. At least in Ning City, no one should offend Meng Lin like this. Moreover, not only did they offend Meng Lin, but they also arrested Meng Lin. Inside the police station, it was overcrowded. The beautiful women and men made people's eyes dazzled. The Imperial Royal Court was completely cleaned up. The list of all the people inside was also in the hands of the police. It was also placed in front of the directors and directors. Looking at the list above, they were so shocked that they were speechless. The guests, time, and transaction amount that these men and women had accompanied since the opening of the Public Relations Department were all clearly recorded. There were even various grades. In addition, some guests with special status were also recorded. Their preferences and identities were also in the list. Looking at such a thing, who could still calm down? Fortunately, this matter was directly taken over by the higher-ups, so although they could see the information, they had no right to interfere. However, not all the guests who were arrested were here to enjoy the erotic transactions. Some people did come for business. Although they were asked to accompany them, they didn't do anything. These people were warned after interrogating, but they didn't deal with them seriously. Otherwise, the police station wouldn't be able to sit down today. But even so, the number of people was not small. After all, there were still a large number of people who were caught in bed. The photos were taken, and it was undeniable. Coupled with the identification of the ladies or handsome men, it was clear. Those who should be detained were detained, those who should be educated were educated, and those who should be fined were fined. It was extremely lively. Cars stopped at the entrance of the police station one after another. Many family members and reporters rushed over, cursing and filming incessantly. Xiaoqing squatted in a corner with her pathetically little clothes. When she felt the light, she shrank back in a panic. This was the first time she had come to the police station, and it was in such a manner. She was extremely nervous. Xiaoqing. A boy rushed over from the crowd. Xiaoqing started crying instantly. Indy, what should I do? Quick, help me talk to the police. I want to go home. I'm so scared. When the boy named Indy heard that his beloved girlfriend had been arrested and taken to the police station, his first reaction was naturally incomparable anger. In his heart, Xiaoqing was innocent and cute. She would usually be so nervous and afraid that she would reject the most basic, intimate contact between a man and a woman. How could she be involved in such an affair? But when he saw her, he was a little uncertain. Her eyes were hazy, her body was bruised, and her lips seemed to be swollen. Her eyes were like silk, and her chest was exposed. Her long legs were almost in close contact with the air. It was still the first lunar month, and the temperature was still very low. If she didn't do anything, why would she be dressed like this? Chapter 481. The man's face was full of shock and hesitation. When he saw Zhongqing's outstretched hand, his heart trembled. Even so, after some thought, he walked over and hugged her. What's going on? I don't know. I was just curious and wanted to go in to take a look. Who knew that I would meet a stinky man and a vicious little girl? Because of them, I offended young Master Meng and he... Ingdi, you won't despise me, right? I've let you down. Zhongqing sobbed and said, I think we should break up. I'm not good enough for you. I won't blame you. Wang Ingdi's heart ached. She gritted her teeth. Is that stinky man and young Master Meng here? Young Master Meng is locked up alone. As for the two people who harmed me, they weren't arrested. Zhongqing shook her head. Wang Ingdi's expression was complicated. She grabbed Xiaoqing's hand. Let's go. We'll explain to the police. I'll take you home. Zhongqing nodded obediently. The police checked the file and looked at Zhongqing meaningfully. All right, since this is your first time and there are no other records of you, you can leave after paying 5,000 yuan. Zhongqing heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Ingdi took out the money without another word. However, the moment she paid, she caught a glimpse of the information on the computer. It was as if she was struck by lightning. No, Xiaoqing would only be curious about the customers who went in. She's not the PR lady inside. The other party frowned. This information was copied from the online database of Imperial Pleasure Royal Court. It can't be wrong. Zhongqing, 23 years old. You signed the contract with the club yesterday. The club also provided you with some clothes and cosmetics, as well as 100,000 yuan. Today is your first day of work. I really don't know what to say to girls like you. What can't you do at such a young age? Why do you have to rely on that kind of business to earn money? Can it last long? Moreover, that kind of place is full of crooks and honest people. Many girls earn money but end up with dirty diseases. They harm themselves and others. The police looked displeased. Impossible. Wang Ingdi hurriedly said. She's not that kind of person. There must be a mistake. The other party looked at the young man with pity. Come and take a look. The lady in green is just an ordinary waitress. The lady in red is an ordinary hostess or singer. As for the yellow, you'll know if you look at the note below. Wang Ingdi was instantly petrified. Prostitute. Also, we've brought all the contracts. Because your girlfriend, on the top. You can see it. Hearing this, Wang Ingdi was left speechless. Zhongqing covered his face and began to sob. My younger brother needs to go to school, and I can't find a job. I really have no other choice. You know that I have to pay for living expenses when I stay at my aunt's place. I signed the contract out of curiosity, but I regretted it later. I wanted to leave, but they forced me. They said that the penalty for breaching the contract was 500,000. While Zhong Qing was crying, one of the women suddenly said coldly, "Xiaoqing, you can't be so heartless." The one who spoke was none other than Sister Yun. She rushed over and said angrily, "When you first came here, I had advised you not to step into this line of work. Otherwise, one false step will lead to everlasting regret. Back then, you were the one who insisted on selling yourself. I even let you try being a hostess first. Instead, you gave up on yourself and signed that contract. You got the contract fee, but you had nothing to do with it. Also, if you hadn't set your eyes on that rich and powerful handsome guy, you would have gone to accompany someone else. Why are you acting pitiful now?" Chapter 482. Sister Yun was really angry. She had fallen into this line of work because she had not met a good man when she was young. At that time, her boyfriend had cheated her and sent her to someone else's bed. When her parents found out, they were greatly shocked. One of them passed away, and the other fell seriously ill. At that time, her friends did not want to see her because they thought she was an embarrassment. Her sister-in-law was young and had a lot of debt. She had no education and no skills. If she could not earn money at that time, her family would not be able to survive. That was why she embarked on this path of no return. But Xiaoqing was not like that. When she came, although the clothes she was wearing were not from a big brand, they were still worth a few hundred yuan. However, she looked like she was dying and insisted on signing the contract. In this day and age, many girls would go astray for luxury goods like bags and jewelry. Therefore, although she sighed at that time, she only advised her and did not forcefully stop her. After all, what did it have to do with her? But now, Xiaoqing refused to admit it. She wanted to reject it. She did not dislike it. However, this young man was too pitiful. One look and she could tell that he was infatuated. He was 10,000 times better than the men she met in the past. Such a person was deceived by such a woman. It was simply intolerable. When Sister Yun said that, Wang Yingdi's face twitched violently. When Zhong Qing heard that, she quickly shook her head. She bit her lip and cried. It seemed that she could not refute, but there was a kind of beauty that made people sympathize with her. It was as if she had a lot of difficulties that she could not understand. "Xiaoqing, is what she said true?" Wang Yingdi's face turned green, especially when he saw the woman in front of him look like she had been fiercely loved. It was as if the world was spinning. Yingdi, don't ask. I know I'm not good enough for you. Let's break up." After saying that, she ran out crying. Since the money had been paid, she could naturally be taken away. If Zhong Qing wanted to leave, she would not be stopped by anyone. However, there were countless reporters. Even if she cried like a ghost, through the video, her family and friends could see it. Wang Yingdi clenched his fists. This was the girl he had always protected. He could not bear to lay a finger on her. If she said no, he would agree. If she had no money, he would think of ways to help her and give her gifts. He knew that Xiaoqing was a prideful person, so she would never complain that her parents were not living under someone else's roof. In his opinion, it was not a big deal. Her aunt and uncle did not treat her badly. At least she did not lack food and clothing. But now, she realized that she had used all her backbone on herself. When she was outside, she didn't even care about her face. He gritted his teeth and left. He didn't chase after her like he usually did. Zhong Qing ran out of the police station and squatted on the ground crying for a while. However, she did not see the familiar figure behind her. She felt even more despair in her heart. After waiting for a long time, she staggered back to her aunt and uncle's house. However, the moment she entered the house, her appearance shocked everyone in the house. By the time she returned home, a few hours had already passed. Some news had already spread, and the TV was even replaying the live broadcast of the anti-pornography campaign. Zhong Qing's figure could be seen in it. "Scram! Take your brother and scram. Our family doesn't want a shameless woman like you." Her aunt was instantly enraged. She grabbed the suitcases of the 3 siblings and threw them out. Zhong Qing was in utter despair. She clearly didn't do anything wrong on purpose, but she wanted to change. If it wasn't for that evil little sister and that stinky man, she wouldn't be in such a miserable state. Crying and complaining was completely useless. Chapter 483. Zhongqing's two younger brothers were still young. Naturally, they needed a place to stay. She had no choice but to call her other relatives and friends with grievances. However, this matter had already been made known to everyone in a short period of time. Her aunt had even informed her relatives and friends, but no one cared about her at all. After tossing and turning for half the night, Zhongqing remembered that her deceased mother had a younger half-brother who could be considered as her half-uncle. She quickly tried to contact him again. At this time, Jing Yunjiao had already fallen asleep in the space. The next morning, this matter spread throughout the entire Ning city. Even if Jing Yunjiao didn't understand politics, she knew that the Ming family would definitely be greatly affected. Previously, she asked Pak Yuan to investigate the Ming family because she wanted to use the power of public opinion. However, she also knew that if she didn't have a stronger backing than the Ming family, public opinion wouldn't help her. After all, the major media in Ning City would be pressured, and no one would dare to expose anything about the Ming family. But now it was different. Meng Lin was caught on the spot, and the internal list was clear. Even if Mayor Ming didn't participate, Meng Lin had the name of his nephew. It was impossible for him to stay out of this matter. It had to be said that Jing Yunjiao also felt that Li Xiaoyun's move came at the right time. Otherwise, if she wanted to completely get rid of Meng Lin, the most effective way was to secretly kill him. She had to do it secretly, but it was also very dangerous. If she was not forced to do so, she would not put herself at the edge of the cliff. Li Xiaoyun was simply her godly assistant teammate. He always helped her at the most critical time. However, Jing Yunjiao also sighed in her heart. Even though she was grateful, she didn't like the feeling of relying on others, especially Li Xiaoyun. However, when Jing Yunjiao thought that Li Xiaoyun would appear in front of her to take credit, he was already so busy that she couldn't see him. As for those strange officers, Jing Yunjiao didn't see them again. While watching, Jing Yunjiao waited for the enrollment day. When Jing Yunjiao arrived at the school, she saw that everyone was looking at her differently. Jing Yunjiao, I heard that you caught a human trafficker during the new year. Is it true? As soon as she stepped into the classroom, a classmate rushed over and asked. Jing Yunjiao was stunned for a moment before she nodded. Her eyes swept over Xiao Haiqing and the others who were gathered together. God, you are too bold. Can you tell me what the human trafficker looks like? Is he very fierce? Another classmate asked with red eyes. In their eyes, human traffickers were as evil as drug dealers. If they weren't vicious, how could they even lay their hands on children? Jing Yunjiao was a little stunned. This was the first time she was treated so warmly by someone. Oh, I know. No wonder they can deceive children. A female classmate nodded excitedly. The next second, she said, I have a sister who said that she saw you on the road. She also said that you caught up with the car alone. Jing Yunjiao, how did you do it? It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. If it were me, I would be so scared that my legs would go soft. I wouldn't dare to catch up. The classmate next to her was very cooperative. Jing Yunjiao found that most of the classmates who surrounded her were girls. Most of the boys looked at her from afar, but their faces were serious and full of admiration. Did she inadvertently get the attention of her classmates? Chapter 484. You know, although her reputation is getting better and better, her classmates still have some deep-rooted alienation. This is the first time that she has been stared at by so many hot eyes. Jing Yunjiao, I heard from my father that the city will commend you, and there will be a bonus. Another classmate went on. Jing Yunjiao wasn't surprised. The school had also informed her that there was a high chance that she would be selected for this year's Bravery Award. They would even report about this without restraint. After all, this was a good thing that could motivate people's hearts. However, she wasn't the least bit interested in this kind of thing that could make her famous. Thank you for your concern, but let me in first, okay? Jing Yunjiao said in a slow tone. Several girls around nodded like chickens pecking rice. Okay, okay. As he said, he made a way in an instant. Jing Yunjiao walked towards her seat, and the girls from her class immediately followed behind her. Jing Yunjiao, can you tell us about what happened that day? We really want to know. When my relatives and friends heard that you saved the little boy and I were in the same class, they asked me to learn from you. Jing Yunjiao's eyes were wide open. She had indeed done something good, but it shouldn't have caused them to become like this, right? Although she fantasized that she could get along with her classmates in her previous life, now she is not a child, but she doesn't like the excitement so much. Besides, who can get used to such a sudden change? On one side, Xiao Haiqing saw Jing Yunjiao's embarrassed appearance and laughed. Suchu's face was even redder. He rushed up and said with a smile, "Yes, cousin, I want to hear you say it again. I'm dying of curiosity recently." "Well, I remember you've asked me more than 3 times, haven't you?" Jing Yunjiao is speechless. The person who always called her to ask for confirmation was Suchu, right? How can it be like having amnesia now? Suchu smiled. "It's different. Now we are face to face. Let me hear it again. Maybe I can find the details I missed before." Suchu looked like a fanatical fan. On the other hand, Xiao Haiqing sensibly kept quiet so as not to ruin the mood of this group of people. Ever since she killed the truck driver, her classmates would stay away from her whenever they saw her. The reason why they surrounded her this time was because she was Jing Yunjiao's deskmate. However, if she were to speak up, the atmosphere would definitely become awkward. "Xiao Haiqing, help us beg Jing Yunjiao. Everyone really wants to hear it. This is simply a heroic deed. I've lived for so long, but this is the first time I've been so close to a hero. If I miss such a good opportunity, it would be a pity to die." Xiao Haiqing was thinking when a female classmate suddenly said to her, "It's not an exaggeration to say that Jing Yunjiao is a hero, because the scene when she saved people was promoted in a small area. Someone had taken a video of the incident, but that person did not upload it to the internet and kept it as a private collection. They only knew about the situation from other people. It was said that not only was it 1 against 2, but because she had caught the 2 human traffickers, the police had taken out a human trafficker's den and rescued many children. 1 or 2 of them even knew the parents of lost children and knew the heart-wrenching feeling of children being stolen. Because it happened around them, they felt shocked and worshipped." Chapter 485. Xiao Haiqing was stunned. Before she could react, a few other classmates came to her for help. Her expression instantly became complicated. She never thought that one day she would be treated with such a normal gaze. It was no longer the disgust, fear, and shock. However, wasn't the memory of her classmates a little too short? Jing Yunjiao saw Xiao Haiqing's stunned look and couldn't help but laugh. "Yunjiao?" Xiao Haiqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She glanced at everyone and said, "It's rare for me to have some presents. Shouldn't you do it for my sake?" Jing Yunjiao sighed and nodded helplessly. "Actually, it was a coincidence. I happened to be with the parents of the missing child. I saw them looking everywhere for the missing child, so I just wanted to help. I didn't expect to really see the culprit. I couldn't not help. Yes, yes." The group nodded. The words, "and then," seemed to be written all over their faces. "I saw them change their clothes and change their child's clothes before getting into a car. At that time, there were a lot of people. If I took a taxi, it was very likely that I would lose them, so I could only bite the bullet and chase after them." Jing Yunjiao continued to speak. Not only her surroundings, but the other people in the class were also very quiet. Everyone was obviously listening. When Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, there were even people who wanted to see the wound on her elbow. One by one, they expressed their sincere condolences. However, after such a commotion, everyone paid more attention to Xiao Haiqing and began to ask her about the car accident. At that time, everyone only knew that Xiao Haiqing was arrested for murder. They were very frightened. They couldn't even understand how an accident could make Xiao Haiqing become so fierce. But now, they found that Jing Yunjiao was a good person who could risk her life for a stranger. Xiao Haiqing, who had a very good relationship with her, shouldn't be a bad person. Therefore, for the first time, they asked for the reason. However, Xiao Haiqing's answer shocked everyone. All of them thought that it was just an accident. They didn't expect that the 2 drivers were actually murderers who had been bribed. In an instant, everyone looked at Xiao Haiqing differently. There was sympathy, worry, and even admiration. Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing spent the whole morning in the midst of everyone's enthusiasm. However, for them, it was as if they were sitting on pins and needles. After all, The enthusiasm of the students was a little too persistent. During class, everyone cast more glances at the teacher than they did at them. There were even groups of people who ran to the other classes to talk about their heroic deeds. I can't take it anymore. I'm just going to the toilet. Everyone is staring at me. So perverted. Xiao Haiqing wanted to cry but had no tears. She tugged at Jing Yunzhao and said speechlessly. The corner of Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Up until now, I've already explained more than 80 questions to more than 30 students. In addition, I've received more than 100 small notes. Xiao Haiqing sighed. It's over. You've fallen for it. Why don't we skip class in the afternoon? Anyway, today will be self-study for the whole day. On the first day of school, the teachers were busy. Only the students were the most idle. I agree. Jing Yunzhao nodded without hesitation. She also felt that it was funny. She also knew in her heart that if it was really time for formal classes, the enthusiasm of the students would definitely not be like now. The reason why it was like this now was mainly because they had nothing to do. Moreover, most of these students wanted to get closer to her and cultivate feelings. It was all with good intentions. Chapter 486. After school at noon, Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Haiqing suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. Su Chu looked at the two of them and forgot about her. She cried a lot on the phone and finally succeeded in meeting them at Yuling Tea House. Well, you said you were good friends. You didn't even care about me and ran away. That's too much. Humph. Su Chu began to complain as soon as she arrived. Jing Yunzhao drank his tea and didn't say anything. Xiao Haiqing grinned and said, Aren't you a good girl? We can't persuade you to not go to class, right? Excuses. Su Chu rolled her eyes and said, Are you going to stay in the tea house for the whole afternoon? More or less. It's quiet here, Jing Yunzhao said. Anyway, we've already skipped class. How about I introduce someone to you? Recently, a cousin is staying at our house temporarily. My father asked her to work in the family's small clinic. My father is usually busy and can't take care of her. So, he wants me to visit her when I have time, in case she can't adapt to the environment, Su Chu said. Speaking of this cousin, Su Chu liked her very much. However, this cousin didn't seem to be in a good mood, so she was going to send some food to her later. Cousin? You have so many cousins. Xiao Haiqing was speechless. After Jing Yunzhao recognized Grandpa Gon as his grandfather, Su Chu called her cousin. She was not so close to Gon Jinchen, her biological cousin. It's different. I haven't seen this cousin before. I heard from my father that her parents are gone. She used to live in her aunt's house, but her aunt didn't treat her well. She didn't give her living expenses and didn't help her with work. She even kicked her out. In short, she's very pitiful. Moreover, her deceased mother and my father weren't siblings, so they didn't contact each other before. Now that she's here, she must have been wronged, Su Chu said with a smile. Hearing Su Chu's words, Xiao Haiqing didn't object. Anyway, it wasn't a bad thing to know one more person. Moreover, since he had nothing to do in the afternoon, he might as well go out for a walk. Jing Yunzhao also knew that the small clinic belonged to Su Chu's family. Rather than saying that it belonged to her father, it was more accurate to say that it was a dowry that Grandpa Gon had given to Su Chu's mother when she got married. The clinic was located near the medicine store that she often bought. It just so happened that she was going to buy some more medicinal seeds to replenish her stock, so it was on the way. The three of them agreed and set off immediately. However, considering that it was the first time they were meeting, they even brought some snacks for their cousin. You people from the Gon and Su families are really strange. Every one of you is related to the word medicine. Even my cousin who popped out of nowhere has a complete set of qualifications. Xiao Haiqing teased on the way. Gon Jinshin's parents had both studied medicine, and Su Chu's mother was the old man's biological daughter. Naturally, she was also influenced by him. However, any profession that involved medicine would require some sort of certificate. Even if they were relatives, if they didn't have some ability, they wouldn't casually arrange for her to work. My cousin even graduated from a famous university, but, it's Western medicine. My dad sent her over to learn some skills. Su Chu laughed. Hearing the words famous university, the corner of Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched subconsciously. Previously, Xiaoqing had mentioned that she graduated from a famous university. Now that she heard these words, her seemingly harmless face appeared in her mind. Jing Yunjiao rubbed the space between her eyebrows and sighed in relief. After a while, the three of them got off the bus at a nearby bus stop and walked towards the clinic. Chapter 487. However, as soon as the three of them approached, they found that there seemed to be an old man's roar coming from inside. "You, are you here to work, little girl? I think you're here to tear down the stage. I just left for a while. It's fine if you talk nonsense to the patient, but you even dare to grab medicine for the patient. Did I ask you to grab medicine? Do you have the qualifications to grab medicine now? You don't even know all the names of Chinese medicine, and you dare to do it." As soon as he said this, the three of them hurriedly walked in. Jing Yunjiao knew this Chinese medicine doctor. He was Grandpa Gon's junior brother. His medical skills were not bad. He usually saw patients in the clinic and had a good reputation in the neighborhood. "Grandpa Chen, what's wrong with you?" Su Chu immediately ran over and said politely, "Don't be angry. If you have something to say it slowly." The doctor took a deep breath and turned his head. When he saw Jing Yunjiao, his face was a little better. "Yunjiao girl is here too?" Jing Yunjiao and the old man would make a house call every month. Sometimes they would come here to see patients, so he had a very good impression of Jing Yunjiao. "Grandpa Chen," Jing Yunjiao called out before turning her head to look at her Biaojia, who was scolded to the point where she couldn't even raise her head, tears streaming down her face. But when his eyes fixed, his expression suddenly froze. With a dry cough, he turned his head and sighed speechlessly. Who else could this person be if not Xiaoqing? However, at this time, she had changed into decent clothes, not as exposed as before in the club. She had been staring at the ground and didn't look at people. She looked wronged again. "Grandpa Chen, what's the matter?" Su Chu asked again. Her cousin seemed to be well-behaved, and Grandpa Chen had been kind and gentle for decades. His temper was even better than her grandfather's. Many people who were interested in TCM came to learn from him, and no matter who it was, he had always been patient with them. Grandpa Chen was slightly younger than Grandpa Gon. He looked like a Maitreya Buddha. When he didn't speak, he always had a benevolent smile on his face. However, at this moment, he was so angry that he stomped his feet. "Hey, it's clear that I've never seen such a child. Just now, an old lady on the opposite street had an old illness. I went to see her temporarily. She was alone in the clinic. At this time, a patient came. Do you know what she said? She told the person that I, a patient, had been cured several times, and now it had relapsed. I didn't have time to entertain others. Let the patient go to the Western medicine clinic next door to get a drip. I'm sure he will be cured." Chun said angrily. "If he didn't know me and waited outside for a while, I wouldn't know." When Jing Yunjiao heard this, her face turned black. It's no wonder that Dr. Chun was so. That's not all. Just now, there was another person who came to get the medicine. The prescription was personally written by me. She didn't even remember the words, and in the end, she got the medicine by guessing. Jing Yunjiao was completely speechless after Chen Lao finished speaking. The old man's cursive calligraphy was not written deliberately. It was mainly because some prescriptions could not be exposed. Otherwise, this ability would be spread. Chen Lao's face was red. He didn't get angry often, so he was panting when he spoke. His eyes were round, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. It could be seen how angry he was. Chapter 488. Not to mention Elder Chun, even Su Chu stared at her cousin with a face full of surprise. Although she wasn't qualified to practice medicine, she had been exposed to it since she was young, so she knew some of the rules. For example, she could do things like getting medicine, but if her grandfather didn't agree, she wouldn't dare to do it. It wasn't that she didn't have the guts, but when it came to the patient's safety, all her guts were just showing off. Moreover, although Grandpa Chen's medical skills weren't as good as her grandfather's, and he wasn't a famous doctor, he specialized in the field. He was very experienced and capable in orthopedics and pediatrics, and he had cured countless patients. This clinic had been open for many years, and there were indeed patients who came to see him repeatedly. However, it wasn't that Grandpa Chen couldn't cure them, but that he couldn't be in a hurry to cure them. Some diseases had to be treated slowly. However, Cousin Zhong Qing actually suggested that the patient go to a Western medicine clinic next door for 4-drip. She even said that the patient would be cured immediately. This was too funny. Some people said that TCM treatment was mainly slow, but that wasn't the case. Many people came to the clinic and took some medicine back to boil and drink it. The main thing was that the treatment method and time were different because of the different diseases. Moreover, TCM treatment had fewer side effects. The 4-drip was actually very risky, and every 4-drip was equivalent to a small surgery. She heard from her grandfather that 4-drip was an invasive operation. The insoluble particles in the injection entered the blood circulation, and it was easy to cause lung granuloma, pulmonary edema, venous inflammation, and allergic reactions. She didn't understand these medical terms, but she knew that the impact was not small. However, as the cousin of their TCM clinic, it was too unbelievable that she would recommend the patient to go to another clinic for 4-drip. Even if it wasn't medically dangerous, it shouldn't be done, right? She was working here, so how could she boost the morale of others and destroy her own prestige? Grandpa Chen hadn't even come to make a diagnosis, so how could she, as an apprentice, say anything? The things that Su Chu understood, Jing Yunzhao naturally understood as well. If she didn't have a good impression of Zhong Qing before, then at this very moment, she detested him to the extreme. Cousin quickly apologized to Grandpa Chen. You're in the wrong, Su Chu said directly. This was a matter of principle. She was not stupid enough to plead for leniency. Zhong Qing furrowed his brows and raised his head in shock. Why? I meant well. Besides, the 4-drip does heal faster. I just don't want the patient to suffer. Also, when I was filling the prescription just now, Uncle Chin's writing was too complicated. That's why I didn't recognize it. After she finished speaking, the tears that had accumulated in her eyes slid down, bringing with it a sense of beauty. However, the vision in front of him instantly cleared up and he saw Jing Yunzhao. His expression changed. You? Why are you here? She asked in confusion. Her voice was soft, full of grievance and fear. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and said directly, Do you know that your good intentions might kill someone? If the patient takes the medicine you gave him, it is very likely that there will be problems. If something happens, it will be a human life. Moreover, Elder Chen will also be implicated because of you. Do you really not understand? Or are you pretending not to understand? Besides, this isn't your first day at the clinic, is it? Don't you know the rules after learning for so many days? Are you an idiot? Jing Yunzhao's words were harsh and direct. Zhong Qing was a medical graduate, so it was impossible for her not to know the dangers of 4-drip. It was also impossible for her not to know the difference between TCM and Western medicine. The reason why she made such a mistake was that she didn't care at all. Chapter 489. In Zhong Qing's eyes, no medical skills were more important than her own opinion. Now, she finally understood why this woman didn't have a job even though she came from such a good university. It wasn't because of the university, but because of her personality. If she could say such things in the clinic, she probably could have done the same thing when she was an intern. What Jing Yunzhao didn't know was that her guess was completely correct. During Zhong Qing's internship, she was in a big hospital in Ning City. At that time, she was full of fighting spirit and fantasy. She felt that she was an angel who saved people's lives. Therefore, no matter what kind of situation she encountered, she would rush forward. In her opinion, she was afraid of blood but could ignore it to save people. That was a very brave thing to do. However, in reality, other than being reckless, she was useless. When she saw the doctor using a large dose of medicine, she did not think about the patient's condition. She thought that it was dangerous and rushed forward to protect the patient without a second thought. When she saw that some people who did not have money could not undergo surgery because of it, she would run to the director's office and scold him, saying that the director had no medical ethics and only cared about money. In fact, not everyone should sacrifice for nothing. A surgery required equipment, blood volume, consumables, and a group of doctors and nurses who worked tirelessly. How could she not take money just because she said so? If everyone did as she did, the hospital would have been in a mess or completely closed down. By then, no one would be able to save anyone and no one would be able to survive. Also, if she really wanted to help people, there were many ways. She just happened to use the stupidest way. To put it nicely, she was kind. To put it bluntly, she was an idiot who thought that she was the Virgin Mary. Every day, she called for love in the center of the universe but did not take any practical action. At this time, after being scolded by Jing Yunjiao, Zhongqing's little face twitched. Little girl, why is it you again? Why do you have to make things difficult for me? I didn't do anything to let you down. Moreover, you were forced by that stinky man. I clearly wanted to help you. How can you accuse me? Zhongqing felt extremely wronged. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. Playing the lute to a cow. Cousin, you know her? Suchu turned to ask Jing Yunjiao. However, when Zhongqing heard Suchu call her cousin, she immediately sobbed and said, yes, it was because of this little girl that I was misunderstood and was chased out by my aunt. Not only was I chased out, but I also implicated my 2 younger brothers. Suchu frowned. Although she liked this cousin Zhongqing, she had only known her for a few days. She did not know her character. What's more, she actually said such things today. She felt even more incomprehensible, and that little bit of affection she had for him was completely scattered. Cousin Qing, I think you're thinking too much, right? My cousin is very good. She is also very powerful. Who can force her? Maybe you're thinking too much. Also, let's not talk about you and my cousin for the time being. You should apologize to Grandpa Chen first. Otherwise, I'll tell my father later. Suchu said directly. Zhongqing was dizzy by this cousin. After a while, she reacted. Jing Yunjiao was also Suchu's cousin? How could it be so coincidental? Well, why do you bully me? Zhongqing's understanding was obviously different from others. She looked like she was about to collapse and said, Chapter 490. Zhongqing felt as if the world was about to collapse. She didn't understand why she had such a hard life. Her parents had passed away when she was in junior high school. She could only live with her younger brothers at her aunt's house. Her cousins always despised them for living under someone else's roof, so they always bullied her. She had good intentions every time, but they never understood. Everything she did was wrong. After going through such a terrible experience, she finally found a kind uncle who was willing to take her in. Just when she thought she could finally breathe a sigh of relief, she didn't expect Chu Chu, her cousin, to dislike her. However, Chu Chu wasn't like this before. This means sister must have said something to her, so she misunderstood and started to dislike her. However, Chu Chu was her uncle's only daughter. Her uncle was very willing to listen to her. When the time came, he would probably chase her out, right? Chu Chu, don't believe this little sister's words, okay? I really didn't do anything wrong, Zhongqing continued. Suchu suddenly blushed, because she realized that she didn't seem to be on the same page as this cousin. On the way here, she even praised her cousin with Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing for being good-looking, gentle, and cute. She didn't expect that at this time. Cousin Qing, can you stop spouting nonsense? Apologize to Grandpa Chen. Hurry up. You can't touch the herbs. Next time, you can't talk to others about TCM. Otherwise, I'll ask Mom and Dad to change your job. Suchu hurriedly said. She was afraid that Zhongqing didn't understand, so she deliberately raised her voice and repeated it carefully. Zhongqing twitched. How can you do this, cousin? Then I'll apologize. Dr. Chen, I'm sorry. Please don't be angry. I saw that the family was in a hurry, so I got the herbs. I meant well. Zhongqing didn't forget to continue explaining. Suchu's face darkened. It was too embarrassing. How could Zhongqing be like this? However, when she thought about it carefully, although they had been together for 2 days, they rarely saw each other except for meals. It was no wonder she didn't understand. Old Dr. Chen listened to her apology, but she still did not know her mistake. He was so angry that he had nothing to say. He could only say, Enough? You don't have to apologize. Since Chu Chu is here, why don't you follow her home? Don't mess around in the future. You're not suitable for this line of work. Otherwise, you'll get people killed sooner or later. Kill someone? Zhongqing trembled violently. That can't be. Why is everyone saying that? When she was doing her internship, the doctor had taught her the same thing, but she clearly had the heart of a doctor. I'm not leaving. She finally had a job, but her uncle didn't ask her to do much. He only asked her to study hard, but she still had a monthly income of 4 to 5,000 yuan. Scram. I won't keep you here. No matter what you say, it won't work. Old Chen was furious and said, clearly, you'd better tell your parents later. Just say that I can't teach this person. I'm a shallow learner. I don't have that ability. Grandpa Chen, don't be like this. It's not your fault, Suchu hurriedly said. The old man was not young anymore. He had never suffered such grievances before. Zhongqing's eyes dimmed for a moment. Sure enough, no matter who it was, they wouldn't help her. Chu Chu was her cousin, but she always wanted to complain. Her elbow was always on the outside. Dr. Chun made up his mind. Suchu couldn't say anything more. If she pleaded for mercy, Dr. Chun might really get sick. She immediately dragged Zhongqing out. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.